Let's start. Hi, good evening, class. Any doubts from the previous class? I think we finished small sector enterprises. We had to write about small sector industry. Discussion was already done. These things we had not discussed. We had discussed, we had not written MSMEs. 1991 policy was completely over last class. Okay, you can start writing. Write objectives for small scale industry. Start with, put the heading as small scale industry. Objectives for small scale industry. The first one, to develop entrepreneurship in less developed and remote areas. To develop entrepreneurship in less developed and remote areas. Second, to provide industrial intermediate goods. First is to develop entrepreneurship in less developed and remote areas. Second is provide industrial intermediate goods. Third, to provide consumer goods and reduce their shortage. To provide consumer goods and reduce their shortage. Last, to promote import substitution. Promote import substitution and save foreign exchange. So basically the third 5-year plan had given these objectives for the small scale industry. Now you can put the heading as benefits or the contribution of this sector. First, benefits or the contribution of the sector. ये हमने डिस्कस तो कर लिया था सारा लास्ट क्लास में. First, contribution to industrial production. It was 9% of total manufacturing in 1966. 28% in 1981. 35% in 91. And today, 2018-19, it is 45%. Contribution to industrial production. 45% is coming from small sector, the MSMEs. 45% of manufacturing output and save foreign exchange. Okay. Second, it has provided for employment. Provided for employment at low capital cost. Employment at low capital cost. In 2018-19, it employed 111 million people. In 2018-19, the sector employed 111 million people. It has contributed significantly. It has contributed significantly to the expansion of entrepreneurial base. Expansion of entrepreneurial base and provided a diverse range of products. There are a total of 63.38 million enterprises in small sector, this MSME sector. 63.38 million enterprises. And it contributes over 28% of the GDP. Next, the sector, please be slow, okay. The sector has provided for exports, for export growth, the sector has provided export growth, for instance 40%, more than 40% of exports is coming from this sector. More than 40% of exports have come from this sector. Next, it has ensured better mobilization of capital. Better mobilization of capital and more equitable distribution of income. Better mobilization of capital and more equitable distribution of income. Thereby promoting regional development. Thereby promoting regional industrial development. Now you can write problems of this sector. First is lack of finance and credit. In this you can write the informal nature of the enterprises has restricted the accessibility of formal sources of financing. Informal nature of enterprises has restricted the accessibility of formal sources of financing. The firms often do not have collateral. Firms often do not have collateral for availing finance or availing loans and credit, anything. Right? Also the sector, in same point, also the sector has dominance of operational credit as compared to financial credit. Delayed payments hamper their working. Second is infrastructural constraints. Due to their remote location, and poor quality of government infrastructure due to their remote location and poor quality of government infrastructure. In bracket you can write down roads and electricity. Remote location and poor quality of government infrastructure, roads and electricity. It adds to their fixed cost of production and also logistics costs. Next, lack of modern machines and equipments. This you can write. Due to the poor resource availability, they are not able to access modern technology. Due to poor resource availability, they are not able to access modern technology. Under the same head you can write there exist poor linkages between the industry, research and developmental institutions, R&D institutions and academic institutions. They also lack awareness on newer technologies. Where have you written? Awareness on new technologies. Next, problems in marketing and distribution. They often face problems in standardization of the product, there is lack of awareness on marketing avenues, lack of marketing skills also compound the problem. Lack of marketing skills also compound the problem. You can write after a break like due to the lack of infrastructure and marketing, the MSMEs have not been able to integrate with the world market. Have not been able to integrate with the world market for competing at the global level. for competing at the global level and providing goods to larger firms. Then you can write the missing middle. Give a heading, missing middle. In bracket you can write dwarf firms. First you can write the cause for missing middle. So I think we discussed why small firms are not growing. So we have very few large firms and a large number of small firms. There is a missing middle. These small firms, they are not growing, and that is why they are termed as dwarf firms. So basically this was the structure during independence. Still this is a problem in India today. The reason, you can write down the reasons for existing of dwarf firms or reasons for missing middle. First, the reservation policy for the small sector, or the small sector in industry, discouraged firms from modernizing and growing its scale, discouraged firms from modernizing and growing its scale of operations, which could make them more efficient. It discouraged technological and institutional developments. So under the same problem, reservation only, you can write the second subpoint. It discouraged technological and institutional development that could be pursued by government to promote efficiency in the small sector. Second, the restrictive labor laws hampered the growth and expansion of the small sector. Third, the lack of education and skilling policies led to lack of skilled labor required for expansion. Then you can write impact of this missing middle. First, poor productivity in the small sector. Second, greater inequality in distribution of wage per worker. As the wage per worker in the large industries as the wage per worker in the large industries is more than that in the small industries. Third, it has led to a poor development of entrepreneurship and slowed down the growth of labor force with industrial skills. Fourth, it has limited the employment generation capacity of Indian industry. As small sector provides employment potential up to employment potential in the initial young years. And later the employment stagnates. Next, the missing middle has strengthened product market segmentation as the market for industrial goods is split into low quality products catering to the need of low income consumers, are supplied by small scale local producers. Low quality products catering to the need of low income consumers are supplied by small scale local producers, whereas the higher quality segments are being supplied by the large establishments. As the higher quality segments are being supplied by the large establishments to the limited number of high income groups. this lack of integration is a bottleneck in the development of mass market for manufactured goods. Development of mass market for manufactured goods. Okay, so this is from your MSME sector. Any doubts here? You've written down almost all of the things. Basically, the last point says that we have two different types of industries. One, your small firms. They are catering to the low income groups. They have not invested in their technology, so they are providing them the low technology, cheaper goods. फिर एक high large enterprises हैं, those who are providing goods to the high income group. These are good quality, high technology goods. Now what you will have is, either you will have good quality shoes or you will have completely fake. नाइकी का जूता 10,000 का, नाइकी का जूता 500 का. This is what you will have. You won't have a complete market for mass manufactured goods, a decent quality footwear or a decent quality any good you see. Either you will have two things on the extreme. One will be the good qualities catering to the higher income groups. इनकी demand दो जगह से पूरी हो रही है. या तो these large enterprises will fulfill this demand, or the demands will be fulfilled by imports. And these small firms will fulfill the demand for these low income groups because they are providing cheap quality goods. This missing middle or integration of the market would have ensured that you have a mass consumption consumer good market. So either you have very good quality or you have very poor quality. You don't have the middle. You can see this in any good. Mobile phones, TVs, either you will get very good quality, more than 1 lakh, or you will get very poor quality. Missing middle agar pura bhi hoga to it will be from imports. If you see why is Xiaomi so famous in India? Because it is catering to this. वो बिल्कुल ही खराब फोन भी नहीं बना रहा और बिल्कुल अच्छे भी नहीं बना रहा. That is why Xiaomi is the largest mobile seller in this country. Oppo, Vivo will catering to this only, the middle class. We don't have anyone who is distributing. Upper large enterprises is fulfilled by Apple and Samsung. नकली फिर आ जाएंगे 10,000 से कम वाले, they will be done by the small firms. So India does not have any expertise because of this missing middle. And this problem starts with small sector, because the small sector is not expanding. We had included this reservation policy in 1967, कि हमने goods reserve करने लगे थे उनके लिए. And this policy was to get them the efficiency, so that if there are certain products limited for them, they will be able to have efficiency in them. Protection was provided so that they could build certain efficiency. 91 के बाद भी reservation did not stop. Dereservation started happening after 1997, and it was completely abolished in 2015-16. So there's a common misconception that 91 के बाद dereservation हुआ, and that is why small sector was completely obliterated. It is not the reason. In the previous class I also gave you that it was the imports which were causing problems for small sector, not the lack of reservation. Reservation की वजह से large enterprises नहीं बना पा रहे थे, and that is why imports were killing the small sector, not the large enterprises. Dereservation policy started in 1997, completely ended in 2015-16. As of now, there are no products reserved for small sector. It started in 1967. The objectives were clear, that we want to protect this industry because it has a good potential for employment. It can create entrepreneurship in different areas. Any doubts here? This is an important thing to remember. This missing middle, ये बहुत news में आएगा. This is one of the major key problems of the Indian industry, that you have a large number of small scale. And the other thing which is confusing here is that they have, often it is said that they have a very large employment potential. Employment potential is because of their age. When the young age, when they are starting to develop, then only they hire labor. Employment potential young age पे है जब वो start होते हैं, when they are starting. But as they mature, they do not hire new labor. Expand करेंगे तभी hire और labor की requirement होगी. But if they are not expanding, they are limiting the growth of entrepreneurship, they are limiting the growth of employment, they are limiting everything. They are limiting quality products, limiting productivity. Productivity और भी ज़्यादा इसकी problem क्यों होगी? Because they are not getting finance, they are not getting technology, they don't have marketing. So इनकी productivity automatically poor होगी. The more you grow, the better technology you are able to access, you will grow into larger sizes. And this is a problem in India, that you have a large number of small firms and very less number of large firms. Okay. So the next topic is the manufacturing policy 2011. So now we are in the era of liberalization. Private sector is allowed to do everything. But still this policy 1991 was not a very big success. We had already talked about the shortcomings of the policy. Till 1996 we saw very good growth in manufacturing, but then it plateaued. We did not get a very good growth in the industry sector. 6 to 8% was the growth on an average in this years. कई 6 years में बहुत खराब भी थी. So industry which we thought would be unshackled due to these regulatory reforms जो हमने 1991 में किए थे, that was not the case. It was here up to 6 to 8%, बहुत ज़्यादा grow नहीं किया था. Light of this, we introduced the national manufacturing policy. See, one thing, let me clarify here. Industry is the broader subset. 3 classification होती हैं sectors की, the agriculture, industry and services. One of the subset of industry is manufacturing. The largest is manufacturing, in fact. But there are other things included under industry also. Just to clarify, these are the, not to get confused between industry and manufacturing. Industry is the broader subset. It includes mining, manufacturing, electricity, gas and water supply, and construction. Water supply and gas. So let us see what were the objectives. So basically the national manufacturing policy, it is trying to provide you the employment base, that we need to increase the employment potential. If you remember 1991 की policy में one of the shortcoming we discussed was lack of talk on employment generation. It just talked about deregulation of the sector. ये ऐसे ही चलेगा? Water supply, yes. That is part of industry. Water supply for drinking and other purposes also. सिर्फ drinking water नहीं आता ना. Water supply, tap water supply, that is included under industry. कुछ ही years में, see, after 1991 we deregulated, we allowed the private sector, efficiency बढ़ी, we got so many different products because now we are removing the role of the public sector and facilitating the private sector. But this growth was very limited. 96 tak we saw very good growth. After that it was slowing down. We did not, because we saw the problems in the policy itself. It was not talking about employment generation. It was not talking about exports. It was just talking about creation of, say, growth in the industry, not the employment potential, not the what the end goal is. To do it for exports, be it the investment intensive, capital intensive, it was not talking about anything. And what we got was that it was catering to the demand of the only few. और कुछ ही industries में development हुई, and then it plateaued. So in that backdrop, this whole the era of 2000s, in fact 2003 to 2008 was very good. Usme we saw, because of good global conditions and also domestic stability, we saw growth. But after 2008 financial crisis, it again plateaued. So पूरा macroeconomic stability था in the era of 2000s. But still it was substandard. Growth in industry was 6 to 8% only, which was not very good because we could not create a lot of jobs. So in that, ये बंद हो गया response portal. So there we started with the National Manufacturing Policy in 2011. So you can see what exactly it is trying to do. Here few things are important. You should know the objectives broadly. This PPT will be uploaded, but still an overview of the objectives. It included certain new things such as the national investment, the NIMZ. The National Investment and Manufacturing Zones. This was slightly different from the Special Economic Zones. ये पढ़ लिया SEZ. अभी investment models नहीं हुए. Okay, I'll give you a brief overview. What is SEZ? Then only you can appreciate what's the difference between the two. Otherwise, also I have prepared a chart comparing the two, so it will be easier. Attaining a growth of, यहाँ से दिख रहा है ये, या वहीं पे चलाना पड़ेगा? Okay, so you guys can see from here for the online students. So it is attaining a growth of 12 to 14% in the manufacturing sector over a medium term to help bolster the economy. It was 6 to 8% maximum. Beach mein kuch years it was very poor also. 1%, 2% also we were getting the growth in manufacturing sector. So we were not getting a very good growth in the manufacturing sector. So objective started with 12 to 14% in the manufacturing sector over the medium term. Now this was the goal. National GDP mein 25% by 2022. This is what we wanted. Manufacturing sector's contribution to GDP should be 25% by 2022. In 2018-19 it was 16.4. It ranges between 16 to 17%. This is our goal. This goal can be asked in the prelims, that the National Manufacturing Policy set a goal for manufacturing. Okay, so we have certain questions. A lot of students have missed out on the dictation. Was I fast? See, these students were able to write. Most of the students are saying fast. Okay, so one of the questions is, okay, dictation ki speed up, if I'll dictate, I'll be slow. Secondly, there's a doubt of how do you solve the problems of MSME. See, all these problems are being solved by the government through different schemes. For example, for solving the question of finance and this credit, they are doing the Mudra scheme. For formalizing and digitalizing, they are giving the Udyog Aadhaar certain identification number to make them come on the digital format. So these things, what the government is doing, you will prepare it along with your current affairs. Government is taking different steps in different degrees to solve all these problems. So these government schemes are there to address these. नहीं तो problem से ही समझ आ जाएगा कि करना क्या है. When there is lack of finance, you need to provide them these facilities, and Mudra is doing that. So you link it with the government schemes, and most of the points are you just need to see what the government is doing for it. You can prepare it with the current affairs. These all schemes are in news. Okay, so national manufacturing, yes, next time slow ही होगा यार अब. National manufacturing policy, 12 to 14% of growth we want. This is what was the objective, 25% to be achieved by 2022. इसमें they can play with numbers in prelims. They can say 25% by 2025 or by 2020. This is important. And you should know the sectoral contribution of manufacturing to GDP, that is 16.4%. And this is not a very good figure. Another important fact, the objective was to create 100 million additional jobs by 2022. So now you see 1991 policy talked about deregulation, talked about delicensing, talked about dereservation, talked about a lot of other things, did not talk about jobs. So now you have certain features coming up because we have seen that we missed out on the employment potential. The jobless growth आती है वो यहीं से, because 91 के बाद we did not focus on the sectors. Creation of appropriate skill sets among rural, migrant and urban poor to make employment growth more inclusive. So you again see, focusing on employment generation, certain policy steps were to create skilling of your population. These all things were not being talked about then. Major domain of 1991 was deregulation, that how do we remove the state sector. This is what we assumed in 1991 was that the moment you remove the state role, the micromanagement of state, private sector अपने आप ये सब कर लेगा. But in these few years after 1991, yes, there was a lot of energy because this private sector started creating a lot of products in different categories. बहुत productive efficiency आई because there was no control. But the point realized was it was coming only in few sectors. We did not see where we could create competitive advantage, where we had advantage, where we had a lot of labor which we could employ. For example, textile. That was a sector which had a very good potential for creating jobs. See, most of the things have been written in your जो synopsis है, and plus it will be uploaded in the synopsis again today. So don't worry about dictation. ये पिछली बार पूरा discuss हुआ है and everything is written in your synopsis, and it will again be written in your synopsis. So if you just missed out, you can note it down from there, and yes, next dictation will be slow if it happens. So 1991 was deregulation, including the private players, including the foreign players. But what we saw was their investments came in few categories, only catering to few sections of the society. जहाँ पे इंडिया का मेजर एडवांटेज था, फॉर एग्जाम्पल क्रिएटिंग अ लिंक विद एग्रीकल्चर, बिकॉज इफ यू सी 1967 के बाद से आर एग्रीकल्चर वाज इंप्रूविंग. So till 1991 there was a lot of diversification in agriculture happening. We could have created a very good link between industry and agriculture. Food processing industry has a lot of potential to absorb labor, but we did not do this. Leather has a very good capacity to absorb labor. Footwear, apparel, these things, see, if you see the class of goods also, leather, apparel, footwear, this is mass consumption goods. इनका demand would always be there. They have a very good export potential also. You can employ a lot of labor at relatively lesser skill, and also you have a ready-made demand, not only for your domestic market but also for your export market, because कपड़े और जूते तो हमेशा चाहिए होंगे. And this is how the industries grow. This is how industrialization happen. You start with those industries where you have comparative advantage. And what is the comparative advantage India had? India had labor. They had labor in a huge quantity. Till to date, this is our advantage. और इस बार तो demographic potential is such that we have young labor. So we did not talk about these things in the 1991 policy. ये 2011 आते आते तक we started thinking about them. That is why you see first is 25% by 2022. The other was 100 million additional jobs by 2022. So creation of jobs. Appropriate skill set. Increasing domestic value addition and bettering technology used in manufacturing. Now, what is the purpose of this? Why did we talk about increasing the domestic value addition and bettering technology used in manufacturing? इसकी बात क्यों की हमने? Compete with the MNCs. Yes, so basically in order to compete with the imports. Now problem what happened in 1991 was आपने private industry बनाई नहीं थी. What all you were producing through the public sector. Now what happened was the moment you opened to foreign competition, the public sector could not compete. Even the private sector competed only into few sectors only, not every product. So you got dependent on a lot of imports. Till date, India is dependent on a lot of imports. Capital goods sector में तो पूरा import करने लगे. We could not grow in technology because of we started importing a lot of goods. The moment you liberalize the trade policy, this we will discuss in 1991 reforms. The moment you liberalized the trade policy, liberalized imports, your domestic value addition fell. अब technology नहीं होगा. See what used to happen before 1991. Your imports were restricted. This is pre-1991. Your imports were restricted when your permission was only given when you were doing certain technology advancement. अगर आप कुछ R&D में डेवलप कर रहे हो तभी आपको import कुछ allow किया जाएगा. Imports were very restricted. See, the point is government was doing heavy industrialization, so basic capital और जो intermediate goods का उनको चाहिए था वो तो import government was doing. For rest of the private sector it was very restricted. They could only invest when they fulfilled certain conditions. The permission to import was only given when there was certain permission. This was being fulfilled that you have to do certain technological development in your own industry. This was pre-1991. Now see what happened after 1991 was that your imports are liberalized. And this permission is no longer there. जो थोड़ी बहुत भी टेक्नोलॉजी और R&D डेवलपमेंट हो रही थी वो बिल्कुल ही खत्म हो गई. जब आप इजीली इंपोर्ट कर रहे हो तो इंडिया में क्यों होगा? कंसिडर एनी प्रोडक्ट विच यू सी अराउंड यू, इट इज इंपोर्टेड. एप्पल टेक्नोलॉजी, सैमसंग, मोस्ट ऑफ यू वुड हैव बीन यूजिंग लैपटॉप्स एंड फोन्स. लैपटॉप्स देख लो कहां बन रहे हैं एंड ऑल्सो फोन्स देख लो कहां बन रहे हैं. इट इज नॉट इंडियन. माइक्रोमैक्स स्टार्टेड डूइंग इट बट इट कुड नॉट compete. Micromax had to shut shop. Micromax was Indian company. It could not compete. So the moment you liberalize the imports, you did not talk about this. पहले तो imports allowed थे तो कुछ permission था कि कुछ बने, but this is now completely gone. So after 1991, a lot of categories were taken up by imports. So that is why this policy is talking about domestic value addition and bettering technology used in manufacturing. See, you cannot develop industrial base without this. Consider the era today. Nothing can work without semiconductors. India में 1% भी manufacturing नहीं है semiconductors की. Consider the basic goods, consider the advanced goods. India does not have technology. Because until and unless you start, we'll talk about the industrialization process and where we've failed. I'll talk about the Southeast Asian economies, the Korea, Taiwan and Japan, how did they develop and how India faltered. Until and unless you have technology and you have competition, you cannot develop. And this is why India lagged. So it is talking about increasing domestic value addition, and the next point you see, it is talking about enabling India's manufacturing to compete internationally. 1991 से पहले तो we were not giving any products. The only products available in market were being developed by whom? The PSUs. कितने भी inefficient हो. We know that pre-1991 was categorized by high cost, low quality. और प्लस गुड्स बहुत अवेलेबल भी नहीं थे मार्केट में. 6 महीने की वेटिंग चलती थी एक गाड़ी के लिए भी. That's the only car available is Ambassador. So high cost, low quality products. Now, how are you going to ensure that your industry develops until and unless you have competition in the market? Until and unless you have 5-6 brands who are competing with each other, you will not get good quality, you will not get a good price. Competition is what needs to be ensured, and this is competition. See, domestic ka still you can have a good competition production, but when you start competing with the world, it again increases. Your productivity efficiency increases because you are competing on the global scale. Now, take another example here. Take the cars which are manufactured in India today and take the cars manufactured in European Western world. Take for example Germany or US. Why are they so better quality at a cheaper price? हमें वो उतनी quality क्यों नहीं मिलती? Maruti will not invest in R&D. Why? Rules stronger. Yes, you can talk about safety, but still your product is not very much superior as compared to what is available outside. Raw material, see raw material still you can import. Raw material में इतना difference है. Why is Maruti not giving you research and a good technological product which is not just safe but technology भी ज़्यादा हो गाड़ी में? बाहर आप देखो बाहर कितनी ज़्यादा technology है cars की, यहाँ कितनी कम है. Because they are satisfied with the domestic market. Maruti knows it has captured the domestic market. It does not have to sell this product outside. The moment it has to compete with the Kia outside, the moment it see here also Hyundai is giving tough competition to Maruti because they are giving better services, better technology. So domestic market को फिर भी आप एक बार saturate करोगे, but when you are competing on the global level, you have to provide the best product. You cannot compete. Micromax can never compete with an Apple. Micromax आप 91 से पहले सिर्फ Micromax ही मिलता. BSNL का ही नेटवर्क आता 91 से पहले. Network also was not efficient. Now when you compete in the outside market, you have to face the competition. You have to improve your product. This is how export gives you the maximum competition. This is how Japan developed. This is how Korea developed. This is how Taiwan developed. जितनी भी आपके टेक्नोलॉजिकल प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, राइट फ्रॉम नोकिया टू सैमसंग टू योर एसोस लेनोवो, एवरीथिंग इज कमिंग फ्रॉम देयर बिकॉज दे फेस्ड द कॉम्पिटिशन फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड. They were not stuck to the domestic market. India gave the protection to its PSUs. It never exposed them to the world competition because imports were restricted. Now 91 के बाद जैसे imports खुल गए तो अब आपके पास gap इतना ज़्यादा था, nobody could fulfill that gap. Until date, this is the problem. Technology and competition. So you can see all these objectives are coming from that background. These objectives have a background because first employment was not talked about. If you see, we talked about in the 1991 policy, the reform of the research and development. We did not know from where the technology is going to come. We did not know it was the public sector or the private sector who is going to invest. We did not know, no industry had anything about the IPR, that how are we going to provide patent protection. So these technological intensive steps were not being talked about. The next is sustainable growth, energy efficiency, ensuring utilization of natural resources and undertaking restoration of degraded ecosystem. So this is sustainable growth. This would not have been the case, yes. But see, we were under various compulsions. Not WTO, IMF and World Bank. वो लोन ही नहीं आता अगर हम मार्केट नहीं खोलते. वो हमारी कंपल्सन बन गई. प्रॉब्लम ये थी 91 से पहले क्यों नहीं किया. द लिबरलाइजेशन फर्स्ट हैपेंड इन 1980s. आई गेव यू एन ओवरव्यू. 1980s में स्टार्ट हो गया था लिबरलाइजेशन 1985, बट स्टिल इट वाज अ वेरी स्लो पेस. एंड पीएसयूज ने एफिशिएंसी कुछ की नहीं. पीएसयूज लगातार दे वाज प्रोड्यूसिंग हाई कॉस्ट लो क्वालिटी प्रोडक्ट्स. That is why we were talking about privatization. Till date, the debate is privatize karo because PSUs are not making anything. See, the biggest problem with PSUs is you cannot ensure accountability. आपका नाइकी का जूता नहीं बिकेगा मार्केट में, नाइकी बंद हो जाएगी. BSNL नहीं जाएगा, BSNL चलता रहेगा because it is being given money from the government exchequer. कितने बैंक्स में प्रॉब्लम हुआ NPAs का, the banks are still continuing. बहुत कम लोगों पे डिसिप्लिन हुआ. द बैंक्स आर स्टिल देयर. पीएनबी, इतने ज्यादा लॉस मेकिंग बैंक्स एंड दे स्टिल कंटिन्यूइंग बिकॉज दे आर बीइंग गिवन मनी फ्रॉम द पब्लिक एक्सचेकर. दिस इज कॉल्ड मॉरल हैजार्ड. दैट व्हेन यू नो यू देयर इज नो इम्प्लीकेशन व्हेन यू फेल. अब आपने इंश्योरेंस खरीद लिया तो आप सिगरेट पियोगे कि हॉस्पिटल चले भी जाएंगे तो इंश्योरेंस आएगा. दिस इज मॉरल हैजार्ड. दिस इज व्हाट पब्लिक सेक्टर डू बिकॉज दे नो मनी इज गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट. दिस इज व्हाट एयर इंडिया वाज डूइंग. Now you're making it compete with SpiceJet, making it compete with Vistara. वो कहाँ provide कर पाएंगे उतनी सर्विस? Nobody is willing to work because they know the job is fixed. हमें कोई निकाल नहीं सकता. So public sector has a lot of problems. That is why we are trying to take them out. But issue is how we are trying to take them out, and also taking them out from all the things. Also benefits we talked about the public sector. If you are not involving public sector in health and education and infrastructure, you are bound to fail. Okay, so what were the steps being taken? Now these are the features. See, 91 के बाद सारी बात एक तो यही होगी कि that state regulation will be made easier. The whole talk of ease of doing business comes from that only, that 91 से पहले we had a lot of state regulations. So 1991 के बाद whatever talk of the policy is, they will always talk about controlling the government intervention. Government from the regulator to now is a facilitator. So rationalization and simplification of business regulations. Till date we are doing this. Make in India का भी एक major motive was rationalization and simplification of business regulations. Another, simple and expeditious exit mechanism for closure of sick units while protecting labor interest. Now, how did they protect labor interest? They had a sinking fund and a job loss policy. ये पॉइंट इन्होंने बोल तो दिया था, बट हुआ कुछ नहीं था इनसे. A lot of things did not happen. Still today it is 16-17% only what is coming from manufacturing. Yeah, I'm just telling you. So as part of your sinking fund, there would be certain money being put by these industries. So when they close down, they will have certain amount of money to pay to their labor when they close down. So when you are saying you are protecting labor interest, you will create a sinking fund. They said we will create a sinking fund. ये बना कहीं पे भी नहीं. This was a feature of the policy that we will have a sinking fund. The moment the industry closes down or any manufacturing unit closes down, labor will be paid from this. Even from the job loss policy was that the unit will have an insurance policy. That when we close down, हम इतना severance package देंगे. These were features. See, these were not implemented. कुछ भी implement नहीं होगा इसमें से. We'll talk about a lot of things further. Implement कुछ भी नहीं होगा. Apart from this rationalization and simplification of business regulation. See, in some scale, we will try to be better on ease of doing business. That कुछ regulations हम कर्म करेंगे हर policy में. But it does not create an ecosystem for setting up a plant. उसके लिए बहुत सारे और चीजें भी चाहिए. And this it was trying to do, but it could not. Financial and institutional mechanisms for technology development. So for technology development, another fund was created. I'll show you in the slides. A fund was created so that that fund will be used to acquire technology from outside. कि हम industries को help करेंगे, we will buy the licenses from outside. जो intellectual property licensed technology है, government will help through that fund to buy the technology from outside so that you can utilize it. This, I'll show you the name. There's a name to it. It is called the Technology Acquisition and Development Fund. So we'll talk about this. This is just the overview of the features. See, industrial training and skill upgradation measures, incentive for small, medium enterprises. So we have had a very labor code. Labor code was not there. National manufacturing policy, this is 2011. तब labor code की कोई बात नहीं थी. Incentive for small, medium enterprises. So you know the importance of the small sector. So there were incentives also. Again, see, now this is also solving those problems. We talked about they have a problem of credit. They have a problem of marketing. They have a problem of operational finance. So ये policy will try to solve these problems. Special focus sectors. Now, are labor code not useful for protection of labor? They are. They are. But see, again, that is rationalization of the labor laws. You had different around 50 labor laws. They have been now rationalized into 4 codes. But unka bhi analysis is a different topic. Now, when any of the industry starts developing, industrial development in any of the economy starts developing, they have few areas where they have advantage. Every country has an advantage in few sectors. Basically, the most of the advantage comes in the labor intensive sector because they have a lot of population with a low skill. So it starts with textile. All the industries, whenever they started developing started industrialization, they started with textile. because textile has a ready-made market. Textile की demand हमेशा होगी, and textile requires less skill and has more labor capacity to absorb. So now this sector focused on 4 different classes of sector that we are going to focus here. But the problem here is, I'll show you what are the different sectors. But the problem here was it included all the sectors. ये Make in India भी यही problem करेगी. When this had to happen in 1991 that we had to protect. Also before 1991 it should have happened in 1947 that we could have selected few areas where we have certain competitive advantage. उनको हम build up करते वो आज भी यहीं पे. If you see any economic discussion we'll talk about only 4 sectors: textile, apparel, footwear and food processing. Okay, we should work on this because we have missed these sectors right from 1947. 91 के बाद नहीं. And now these policies will start talking about sectors, but the problem they did was they started talking about all sectors. I'll show you they included every sector, including special focus sectors. कुछ छोड़ा ही नहीं. And this is what Make in India did. Make in India selected 25 sectors. So how can you focus on 25 different sectors? Leveraging infrastructure deficit and government procurement. This government procurement is to promote MSMEs and also to promote infrastructure. Now this is the major key of the policy, the national investment and manufacturing zones. Then there were also trade policy to increase, you can say, the exports and to reduce on the imports. Was trade policy also a part of it. The major intervention was your creation of clusters, national investment and manufacturing zones. Now what exactly are these NIMZs? See, industry develops when it gets the benefit of a cluster. That is, you get an ecosystem where you have common infrastructure facilities. This in plus you have forward and backward linkages. Now, your industry A is getting raw material from say one place. This is the raw material. This is the market. Industry B is here getting the raw material from somewhere here and supplying an intermediate good to A. So you can see if you have disaggregated industries, raw material कहीं से आ रहा है, intermediate good कहीं पे आ रहा है, market कहीं और है. And there are different, say these industries could be different. A है, A का कोई competitor, D है, वो कहीं और बना रहा है, raw material वहीं से आ रहा है, intermediate good is coming from C. The moment you have a cluster, A is here, B is here, D is here, every industry is now, every unit is close by. So what the benefits you will be getting? This is agglomeration, this is a cluster. This is agglomeration. Now what are the benefits which this cluster will give? Yes, the biggest will be you will have savings on logistics cost. If you see the example, the food processing industry also, we talk about creating mega food parks. वो mega food parks क्यों बनाने हैं? It will help you create these forward and backward linkages. आपकी सारी इंडस्ट्री को इकोसिस्टम है. Another important benefit of this would be you will be saving on this. Different infrastructure नहीं provide करना पड़ेगा हर जगह. You are creating the common infrastructure facilities. What are IT corridors? बहुत बार सुना होगा information technology corridors. What are those corridors? So the corridor is a cluster only. The name in service industry is called the cluster. Corridor is a cluster only where all the industries come together. For example, Gurgaon. सब एक ही जगह पे हैं. Because they get everything. They're nearby to the Delhi connectivity. You have airport connectivity. Everything is nearby. So these benefits, not only you are getting common infrastructure facilities, this is benefit from the point of view of the government also. They don't have to provide these facilities everywhere. The firm saves a lot on the logistics cost. And logistics is a very important component of industry. India, the logistic cost is upward of 13 to 14% of GDP. Developed countries are in the range of 6 to 8% of GDP. See, logistics is one of the important reasons why we are not integrated into the global value chains. जब आप on time delivery नहीं कर पाओगे पोर्ट पे, how are you going to be integrated into the value chain? आप value फिर भी अगर कहीं add कर रहे हो किसी एक product में. For example, you are making the battery. Until and unless you have seamless logistics connectivity, you will not be able to do. And logistics is not just transportation. It is warehousing also, storage also. And logistics is a very big problem in the country. So this NIMZ is this cluster only. National Investment and Manufacturing Zones. See, I'll tell you briefly what is the difference between SEZ and NIMZ. SEZ is mainly for exports. SEZ is also a cluster. SEZ, you get tax benefits to people to open their units in SEZ, and they are meant only for exports. SEZ are treated as foreign territories. You will do this detail. Vendor companies nearby, main example, nearby Gurgaon, yes. Noida, yeah. Forward and backward linkages are forward linkages connecting it to the market, backward linkages connecting it to your raw material intermediate goods. So pura supply chain will be at one place. This means your supply chain will be at one place. See, cluster is not just giving you benefit of common infrastructure, facilities, logistics cost, but it is also giving you the benefits of sharing of technology. Cluster में ये भी बहुत होता है that people nearby industries, they tend to share technology between them. They can sign agreements. Technology sharing also is an important component of clusters. So now what exactly was the policy talking about? Difference between NIMZ and SEZ was, NIMZ was talking about manufacturing in the country only. Yes, you can do exports, but it is not specifically exports. No. It could be export also. We are creating, the purpose is creating agglomeration. Purpose is creating a cluster. We have to create manufacturing facilities. Purpose is this. Providing common infrastructure facilities, providing the forward and backward linkages. SEZ, the purpose was exports. They are two different things. SEZ was completely for exports, but NIMZ for manufacturing, providing the cluster and agglomeration benefits. Greenfield industrial townships. Another one benefit of industrial townships clusters is you get the people staying here also. Townships भी होते हैं यहाँ पे. A lot of PSUs have done this. Where they establish the plant, they have a township also. SAIL, NTPC, NHPC, सबके घर वहीं होते हैं. So this is an integrated township. See, why China could do this? China had town and village, these integrated townships. They did not establish it in the urban areas. They established it in the town and village areas only. They had started with this only. Town and village enterprises had started, those townships were in the rural areas themselves when China started industrialization. Made in India policy include both SEZ and NIMZ. We will come to that. Creating class urban centers absorbs surplus labor by providing them gainful employment opportunities. So cluster, creating employment. Clustering of small and large manufacturers, essentially customers and suppliers between themselves. So this is their major benefit. Bringing the suppliers and manufacturers together, that is creating a supply chain, giving them the forward and the backward linkages. See, operating in close proximity, these companies will be able to leverage synergies. As individual component manufacturers come together to build high value goods. Now you can have different products also, you can create one. Like I said, they can have technology agreements between themselves. So these synergies will be created if you bring them at one place. Collaborating working models across different players, reduce cost, lead times, achieve economies of scale, exchange technology, gain expertise. ये सारी benefit लिख दिए cluster के यहाँ पे. Video चल नहीं रही है. आ रहा है issue? Buffer हो रही है video, internet. So all of these are the benefits of NIMZ. NIMZ and these cluster models are still being proposed for development of industry. But point is what we are going to develop. Product क्या बनाएंगे? Administration of the NIMZ managed by special purpose vehicle, which would ensure master planning of the zone, pre-clearances for setting up the units, undertake functions such as those in the policy. Now this will undertake all the administration of the unit. Now all the clearances you want, everything you want will be run through the SPV, and they will be rationalized. They will be made easy so that you can open an industrial unit. To enable the NIMZ to function as self-governing and autonomous body, it will be declared as an industrial township under Article 243. Leverage synergy. See, synergy is when two things meet, taking benefit of that synergy. Article 243 Q ke under it will be a industrial township. Area of at least 5,000 hectares in size. State government will be responsible for selection of land, power, water and other things will be provided by state. This is very important. सारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी स्टेट की है. Minimum size has been given 5,000 hectares in size. See, these features can be asked in prelims. That I've given you a complete list. Niche I will compare it with SEZ. You will get all the more features what is happening, but you get an idea what the concept is. So if there's a question on concept, you know agglomeration, synergies and all what is happening. And the second thing which can be asked is in the form of features of NIMZ. They can also give a question on comparing NIMZ and SEZ. What is the difference? Now you see SEZ and NIMZ. Minimum land area, is it visible? No. No. Minimum land area is 10 to 1,000 hectares depending upon the sector. So there was no specific guidelines on minimum, but here it was given 5,000 hectares. 5,000 hectares का तो होना ही चाहिए. This was the minimum area given here. Maximum area 5,000 is for multi-product. Maximum area is not specified. Special purpose vehicle mandatory, not for SEZ, but yes for NIMZ, for the management and administration of the complete area. SEZ could, see again, that could be, the state could have its own policy on SEZ. Okay. Most of the cases they had their own SPV only for managing the whole SEZ. स्पेशल पर्पस व्हीकल. सो आप लोगों को पॉलिटी हो गया? कहाँ तक पहुंचा पॉलिटी? नहीं, मिक्स कोई टॉपिक कहाँ तक? हैव यू डन पंचायत एंड ऑल? पंचायत, म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज एंड ऑल दैट. No, yes. So, see, I was trying to link it to Panchayat and municipality. See, municipality, there are a lot of different bodies for urban governance. For example, in Delhi, you have the municipality. Then you also have the Delhi Jal Board, various state governments, departments, bodies working. Then if you have certain areas like this, you have your special purpose vehicle for managing those areas. For example, smart city ka apna SPV hoga. That is being mentioned that smart city will be managed by a special purpose vehicle. Similarly, NIMZ will be managed by a special purpose vehicle. So when you read about urban governance, there's a thing called functional jungle, that you have so many different bodies for different functions, nothing happens. So you can see another thing you are creating a special purpose vehicle for management of this zone. Creation, ये हर किसी का जो body बनती है, it is that we will streamline the functions of that particular area, but we don't understand, we already have a lot of bodies functioning on that particular topic. So this SPV of smart city gets into jurisdictional fight with, you can say, municipality, gets in jurisdictional fight with certain state departments such as Delhi Jal Board. Cleanliness के लिए कोई और उनका state department का department होगा तो उसका भी लड़ाई होती है. Similarly, you are creating another special purpose vehicle. Can land be mortgaged by SPV not specified, need to ensure by prospective allottees. Responsibility for assessment, state government. the environmental impact assessment. Minimum processing area 50%, 30%, cost of master planning not specified central government. So it's just the features which is different. But overall you have the idea what exactly is happening in NIMZ, and it is for investment and manufacturing. It could be exports also, but not specifically export as in SEZ. And you will be doing SEZ in detail. SEZ investment models mein hoga. See, there are certain benefits also. Mandatory to get a certain percentage of electricity mix from renewable sources. So last point in objectives was certain clean energy sustainability. So this mandatory to get certain percentage from renewable, low interest loans and investment subsidies will be given. Government purchases will be given to units located in NIMZ. So this is an incentive that government will procure from units in NIMZ. See, government procurement is also one of the major buyers of goods and services. Government needs a lot of goods and services for its functions. So government procurement is also very significant in industry. So this is giving them a benefit. This government procurement benefit is also given to small sector MSME. So similar, this is an incentive when you are giving them these units preferential buying in case of government purchases. Government requires a lot of units for its own functioning. बहुत सारे goods and services government procures. In government purchases, subvention interest and working capital 4%, applicability of viability gap funding, yes. So when the government is purchasing, you get a 4% credit, operational credit benefit also. Incentives to promote innovation, 50% of expenditure incurred in filing IPs will be shared by the government. Tax expenditure on incurred in national IP processor product certification. Again, incentives for innovation. Tax exemptions and concessions to unit establishment in NIMZ. What do you think are the problems? Why did not develop NIMZ? If you read about NIMZ today, most of the areas land भी acquire नहीं हुआ इनका. What do you think would be the problem? So these are just the features. You can compare it with SEZ. Conceptually, you know. Features will give you an idea what exactly we were trying to do. Different incentives, incentives for technology, incentives for tax and all for better production. तभी तो आएंगे लोग यहाँ पे. Incentive मिलेंगे जब. Why would someone open an industry here in NIMZ if he's not getting any benefits? So this is to lure the industry, to create the cluster, to create the agglomeration. Why do you think this would fail? NIMZ have failed. This is a failed policy. We will leave it to them. See, not correctly that we leave it to them, they will not do, and center is all good. The thing is, state government, does it have the capacity? Every state wants to have industry in their own area because it creates jobs. They don't want to let people migrate. This is a problem. They want to create jobs in their own industry. So this is a good idea. But the point is, do they have land to acquire? You are saying 5,000 hectares is the minimum area you have to develop NIMZ. Yes, they are not able to acquire the land in the first place. Second, state governments, all the responsibilities are there. Just the cost of master planning is being given by central. Rest everything is to be managed by the state. State is giving a lot of incentives also in form of tax and filing of IPs and all that. Now, why would state create an NIMZ? I will make you note down these issues of NIMZ. I'm just discussing it right now. The second is that NIMZ is giving you a lot of tax incentives. State is losing out a lot of revenue. Why would it establish a special area and then give tax incentives if it can do it normally also? Why will they establish this area? All the cost is on the state government. And one of the biggest issues in any of the reform measures is cost is first. Benefits are 5 years, 7 years down the line, and also we don't know if the industry is going to work, agglomeration is going to, yes, land acquisition is strict. We don't know what exactly will happen in the future. If you see जो गिफ्ट SEZ बनाया है गुजरात में, वो खाली buildings देखो कैसे हैं. It's not working. So which state is going to take the cost first and then see the benefits? It's a risk if the industrial units will come or not. So this NIMZ did not It could not work. It was not implemented because it was a very big decision which the state had to take. The first is they did not have land acquisition. Land ही नहीं था. Land acquire कैसे करेंगे 5,000 hectares? Then they have to ensure provision of all facilities. Then they have to lure the industry. That yes, you come and establish your plants different. On paper, it is a very good concept. A lot of countries have, but they develop these agglomerations naturally. That things developed naturally, it was not very forced that tax incentives की वजह से हुआ. Agglomerations developed due to geographical locations, due to presence of market, due to presence of port. जितने भी SEZ China में है, if you see, they are on the coast. It developed naturally because of certain reasons. Yes, government helped may develop them, but there were certain natural reasons already present there. Now you are trying to create these NIMZs from scratch without any advantage. Trying to create a agglomeration, artificial agglomeration by giving them tax incentives. Now this does, second problem this is this also, that do you think tax incentives से वो आप तो जाएंगे, but do you think they will give you productivity? Tax incentives have brought them into the NIMZ. Do you think you will get benefits that they will employ a lot of people and they will be producing productive, efficient goods? This is again a problem. National agglomerations which are natural, they give you those benefits. SEZ ka one of the major problems why it failed in India was ek to policy kept on changing. Policy was changed a lot. Secondly, there was no specific benefit given as in nearby ports or certain products which were being developed. Similar with NIMZ. Jabardasti ka we were trying to create a cluster without any natural advantage. And secondly, we were giving all the responsibility to the state governments. State governments, kitni states acquire kar payenge land? 5,000 hectares. Okay, so the next is you had a technology acquisition and development fund. Acquisition of appropriate technologies including environmental friendly, creation of patent pool, development of domestic manufacturing of equipments, reducing energy. Logistic connection is not good, yes. So it's not that great, you had to develop. So you understand the creation of this technology acquisition and development fund. This is TADF. What it is trying to do? This is a major problem with MSME. कि वो नई technologies क्यों नहीं acquire कर पाते? Bigger companies still acquire the licenses. See, if you know, Jio has built the all network for 5G. जितने भी वो equipments बना रहे हैं 5G के, वो अपने बना रहे हैं. How have they done this? Presence of capital. No, apart from that, all the equipments जो चाहिए 5G network चलाने के लिए, Jio is manufacturing it themselves. They are not dependent. इससे पहले all the this equipment needed to run these networks was imported. Ericsson, Nokia and all this. They are not Indian companies. सब import हो रहा था जितना भी equipment था. But Jio ने कैसे बना लिया है खुद? इनफैक्ट चाइना की सारी डेवलपमेंट ऐसी ही हुई है. हाउ? पेटेंट्स हाउ? दे हैव एक्सप्लॉइटेड पेटेंट्स हाउ? पेटेंट खरीद के उन्होंने प्रोडक्ट चोरी करे. दिस इज व्हाट चाइना हैज डन. Huawei has built its all technology by copying Cisco. Huawei is the world leader in developing these technologies, in network equipment, everything. Huawei is the world leader today. And Huawei ने capacity बनाई इसलिए है, Huawei ने सारा कॉपी चोरी किया Cisco को, और Jio ने सारा चोरी किया Nokia का, Nokia Ericsson. What they do is they buy the licenses for using the product and they reverse manufacture the product. They look for technologies, how it has been developed, and they try to create changes, and they have developed. How do you think Jio has created the research and development technology itni jaldi in few 2-3 years, which these countries have taken so long? How could, this is like, you could have thought of this, how could Jio make this equipment on their own without having a very good research and development base? अगर इंडिया के पास इतने अच्छे इंजीनियर्स थे ऑलरेडी, सो और कंपनीज ने क्यों नहीं बनाए ऑलरेडी? And this is not, see, Jio is not that they are corrupt and they are doing wrong thing. This is done by every company. China, Japan, every industrialized nation have copied these technologies from outside. First phase is any industrialization. I'll discuss this later also, what are the problems in India. First is that you develop the industry where you have competitive advantage. सबसे पहले जब भी आप इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन करोगे, you will develop those industries where you have a competitive advantage, where at low labor you can do that. Second is you want to scale the technology. For scaling up the technology, you need foreign investments because research and development base is not good in your country. Britain had industrial revolution because the technology was developed there. ब्रिटेन के बाद जितनी जगह भी इंडस्ट्री बनी है वो सबने चोरियां की हैं. बहुत कम जगह पे डेवलपमेंट्स वर ओरिजिनल. मोस्ट ऑफ द कंट्रीज हैव कॉपीड दीज इनोवेशंस बिकॉज एट द सेकंड स्टेज ऑफ डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इंडस्ट्री यू नीड टू स्केल अप ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी. And how do you do that? You do it with foreign investments and you do it with technology agreements with foreign players. And this technology agreements with foreign players does not come at a cheap cost. जो भी IP, जो भी आपका intellectual property, जो licenses and everything, they come at a very good cost. So only the governments can help you get that. This is what your technology acquisition and development fund is trying to do. The government will help you acquire technology from outside. This is what this TADF is trying to do. It does, but they have creative technologies. हो जाता है. Patents protect against reverse manufacturing. This is patent का काम यही है. Patent का काम यही. But point is patent को आप patent आप buy करके you are paying a royalty to the manufacturer, but you are also creating your own technology. इसमें there's a sense of corruption happening. वो फिर पैसे चलते हैं वो. This is how Huawei developed. Cisco पूरा कॉपी किया Huawei ने and Huawei is beating Cisco today. And similar Jio has created 5G. If you talk, I have friends in working in Jio, यही किया उन्होंने. Nokia Ericsson का सब चुराया. And now they are creating their own. See, any industry I said we were talking about, you need technology. After a point, natural resource-based industrialization will be stopped. आपको textile का भी you need artificial synthetics which can replace natural. Natural resources का you need replacement, and replacement of natural resources will come from technology only. When you work in the labs, chemicals, electronics, all this will come from technology. So second stage of industrialization is always technology. So how does a country develop? They will have technological agreements with outside countries. यूएस ने ब्रिटेन के साथ यही किया. ब्रिटेन जापान ने यूएस ब्रिटेन यही किया. जर्मनी डिड द सेम. देन कोरिया डिड द सेम. देन ताइवान डिड द सेम. But they were developed, they were being helped by their own governments also. It's not just they were copying things. The initial push was coming from these technology agreements, but they were developing their own R&D base. Taiwan is the biggest manufacturer of semiconductor chips today. इतना सा nation है, and it is doing everything. Taiwan is holding the key. In fact, they have opened up a new semiconductor base in US also. Even US has a very good capacity of semiconductor, but nothing beats Taiwan. In fact, Korea, Samsung builds its own chips. Samsung अपना chip खुद बनाता है. They have their own capacity. Now, India cannot compete with them. Semiconductor का तो I'm taking just an example. This is high technology. See, technology you need government. That is why you see this technology acquisition and development fund to help you acquire technologies. And the third base, see, first thing I told you, first base of industrialization is you propel those industries where you have comparative advantage. Second is you inculcate technology in these industries. Third is the highest base for industrialization is you build the domestic base for that technology. You build companies domestically who build that technology. He will be discussing all this, Abhi. You don't have to write down. I'll make you write down all these things. The first is you have comparative advantage, help those industries. Ease of doing business for them. Second is get technology in your country. Have technology agreements, include financial foreign investments. The third is make your domestic companies build that technology. Build that R&D base in your country. This is what China is doing. Why is China moving out of leather, apparel and all these industries? Now if you see, China is only developing technology till 2025. It has a mission to develop these technological sectors. It is dealing in high technology only now. This is how they are progressing. This is how countries have progressed. If you see the world leaders, this is how. And no industry has progressed without the support of the government. कितना बड़ा Tesla हो, कितना बड़ा Samsung हो, कितना बड़ा Huawei हो, they have not developed with the help of the government. Whatever the capitalists say कि private market and everything has developed, government की मदद के बिना किसी ने कुछ नहीं किया. उनको सबको स्टार्टिंग में इंसेंटिव्स मिले थे, बहुत टैक्स ब्रेक्स मिले थे, गवर्नमेंट हेल्प नहीं करती, कुछ नहीं है. एलॉन मस्क, बेजोस, कुछ नहीं होता. Okay, so technology acquisition and development fund is clear to help acquire technology. The National Manufacturing Policy structure for skill development. So we had a feature for skill development, skill building amongst the minimum educated workforce, establishment of ITIs in PPP mode, industrial training institutes. They will be built in PPP mode. Maruti uses Fiat engines and capturing Indian market. गाड़ियों की मार्केट में तो यू सी टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ है ही नहीं. बाहर की कंट्रीज में यू सी कितनी टेक्नोलॉजी मिलती है गाड़ी में. यहाँ पे 10 लाख की ब्रीजा लेना पड़ रही है. डब्बा है ब्रीजा पूरी. मतलब बलिनो इज फॉर 9 lakhs. बलिनो 9-10 लाख की. बलिनो में क्या है? एंड दे आर नॉट लाइक द पॉइंट इज देयर इज नो कॉम्पिटिशन इवन. द ओनली कॉम्पिटिशन टू मारुति इज हुंडई. Toyota is not ready to work. Fiat is leaving. उससे पहले another company I think has left the country. There is another car manufacturer. Ford is leaving. So they're not manufacturing, and then you have only options. See, this is what happens when you are not competing with the outside competition. You are forced to buy those only. Now Hyundai, Creta and Kia, it is selling for, Kia is also a sister company of Hyundai. They are selling cars for 16-17 lakhs. Same Maruti is selling for 10 lakhs. You have just two options. SUV market में आपके पास option ही नहीं है. Mahindra is slowly building up. But again, Mahindra की services is not as good as Hyundai. And Hyundai is not Indian. The moment you expose your, the thing is, why did Kia enter so late in the market? मारुति को पूरा लॉबी आने नहीं देगा किसी और को बाहर से. उनकी गाड़ी 2 लाख गाड़ी बनाते हैं मारुति एक साल में. और मारुति इज ओनली जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ द कंज्यूमर डिमांड दैट वो अफोर्डेबल माइलेज. बट इफ यू वांट क्वालिटी, यू वांट बेटर सर्विसेज, यू हैव टू एक्सपोज योर मार्केट टू द आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड. द मोमेंट Hyundai and other companies start building cars in India, Maruti will have to provide services. Ford की Endeavor is providing services, Toyota की Fortuner को भी देना पड़ रहा है. This is how technology and competition. Most of these countries developed because they were exposed to the outside world. जितनी भी Korea, Japan, every country was exposed to the export market. Their incentives were linked to exports. आपको हम तभी देंगे जब आप एक्सपोर्ट करोगे. एंड एक्सपोर्ट में आपको कॉम्पिटेटिव प्रोडक्ट देना ही पड़ेगा. यू हैव टू प्रोवाइड द गुड क्वालिटी प्रोडक्ट बिकॉज यू आर कंपीटिंग ऑन द ग्लोबल स्केल. इंडियन मार्केट जब भी आपको दिखे प्रोडक्ट खराब है, यू सी द कॉम्पिटिशन. वो होगा ही नहीं. एसयूवी में कंपटीशन देखो, छोटी गाड़ियों में देखो, बलिनो इज सेलिंग फॉर 10 lakhs. इट्स ह्यूजली ओवरप्राइस्ड, टेकिंग अ बॉम्ब फॉर अ स्मॉल कार. और इट फेल्स ऑन द क्रैश टेस्ट ऑल्सो आई थिंक. बिल्कुल जीरो डब्बा, वो भी डब्बा है, 10 लाख का डब्बा है वो भी. Because you don't have competition, you're not letting the others grow. You're not exposing them to outside. That is why Toyota, everyone is leaving. They're not allowed to work. Specialized skill development through establishment of polytechniques, ITIs, polytechniques, instructor training center in each NIMZ. So this is certain features for skilling. Improving the access of SMEs to finance. See, that is why when I gave you the shortcomings, every government policy, every government schemes will try to solve those problems. Those problems were there in 47, the problems are there still. These government schemes are trying to solve that only. Mudra hai ya Udyog Aadhar hai, jo bhi ye hai, they are trying to do that only. Even in demonetization, ye jo, not demonetization, this lockdown, they introduced a slew of schemes for these MSMEs specifically. कि इनको ऑपरेशनल क्रेडिट की प्रॉब्लम होती है, कुछ इनका लोन रोक दिया कि यू विल बी नॉट बी अलाउड टू प्रीपे, मतलब यू डोंट हैव टू, द लोन मोरेटोरियम. सो सिमिलर थिंग्स आर प्रोवाइडेड. दीज प्रॉब्लम्स आर बीइंग सॉल्व्ड बाय गवर्नमेंट, सो दैट यू सॉल्व थ्रू स्कीम्स. नाउ रोल ओवर रिलीफ फ्रॉम लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन टैक्स, री इन्वेस्टमेंट इन स्टार्टअप यूनिट, स्टॉक एक्सचेंज फॉर MSMEs, टैक्स पास थ्रू स्टेटस फॉर वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट फंड्स, इंक्लूजन ऑफ लेंडिंग एज पार्ट ऑफ प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग. SMEs को प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग के अंडर भी लोन्स मिलेंगे. So see again, solving those problems of helping them formal credit. This is what this policy was also good for SMEs. Now see identification of special sectors. इन्होंने 4 कैटेगरी में स्पेशल सेक्टर काउंट करे. One was employment intensive, capital goods, strategic, and industries where India enjoys a comparative advantage. And see the number of industries included. Employment intensive, जो मन में आया लिख दो. Textile, garments, leather, footwear. See this I've already told you, they are employment intensive. This is true everywhere. Then gems and jewelry, food processing. Capital goods, see, machine tools, heavy electronic equipment, heavy transport, earth moving, mining, high technology equipment. Now when you say high technology equipment, everything could be high technology equipment. So they included a wide variety of sectors, and that is why we lost focus. The moment you are saying we will identify special sectors, but you are identifying everything. Strategic industries, aerospace, shipping, IT, they will have sector specific policy interventions. Some of these are already in place. The efficacy needs to be examined. Wherever necessary, additional measures would be introduced. Sector specific policy interventions will happen for these. The moment you have so many, nothing will happen. Now, most of the problems, you would know कि क्या क्या problems आए होंगे. What are the benefits of the policy? Benefits, though, I think are clear. Benefits, you know the features: agglomeration, labor productivity, training, skill, employment. So wo to I think from the features flow. Now what are the problems with this? We'll write the problems. Benefits, I don't think there's much to talk about. You already know. What are the problems with the policy? It was not focused. One is this, that we included everything. See, any industrialization will have to pick certain sector. Please give break. After failure of this, I'll give you a break. What are the problems? The issues with this policy. See, none of them have worked apart from relaxation given. Because you see, industrialization is still there. Sorry, industrialization is still at 16-17%. What are the different issues? Let's start from the first. Let's start with the objectives which it was trying to achieve. It is trying to achieve 15% of GDP to 22% of GDP, along with creation of 100 million jobs. And it is also saying value addition. Sorry, 25% by 2022. ये बहुत होता है प्रीलिम्स में ढंग से याद करना. No, that time was 15%. This is 2018-2019. I was just giving you a reference कि कितना fail हुआ है कि 2022 में 25% पहुंचना पर तब 16 है. So you can just see 15-16 लिख लो. इतना ही रहा है हमारा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का तो GDP. Most of it is service only. Now, you have 16% GDP to 25%, 100 million jobs, value addition domestic. Now what is the problem with this? Infra and technological hurdles. See, these are when you implement the policies. I told you this before in 1991 policy also. Talk about the problems with the policy. Infrastructure is not there, is the implementation challenge. This we will talk about the issues of industrialization, poor industrialization in India. But what are the problems with this policy? Issues with this policy. बहुत ज़्यादा estimate, yes. Anything else apart from this? Yes, बहुत ज़्यादा है. But बहुत ज़्यादा के लिए भी, even if you are having a big goal, you should have certain monitorable targets. Don't you think these are just vague goals which can't even be monitored? How can you monitor these targets? Now it is saying you need to promote domestic value addition. Do you have any targets for domestic value addition that in these sectors we will achieve this much of domestic value addition? They had no targets for this. You just said 25%, 100 million jobs. See, this is the problem with all policies in India. किसी भी policy में देखना बहुत बड़ी बात कर देंगे starting में. They will not tell you how. Because the moment they tell you how, the issue is they will be accountable. The moment they say इतना value addition होना है, अब आपको एक factor मिल जाएगा उनको accountable hold करने के लिए. Now they are saying 25%. Similar problem was when you say double the farmer incomes in these many years. Now how are you going to do it? How are you going to achieve? You just gave a very big target. This is why most of the policies in India fail. Because you see, you take a very big target, very big goal, which is vague. Now you're saying 100 million additional jobs. किस sector में कितनी employment potential है? Have you given specific numbers? How much domestic value addition are you going in different sectors? You have given any targets? Is it monitorable? How are you going to achieve them? This is a problem with anything, with everything, every policy of India. That you have a very big goal over assumption, yes. No, I will dictate this issues. The second is, see the big goal itself. You are at 5, 15%, 16% and you need a growth of 12 to 14% to achieve this. You need a goal, and here you were just having 7 to 8% of growth. Even this was not very fixed. I told you 7 to 8% average growth आ रहा था हर साल में, but this was not fixed. This was volatile. After 2008-19, there were years also where there was 1%, 2% growth in industry. So when you have volatile growth in industry, how can you have per year 12 to 14% growth every year for 9 years? Or more than 9, 10 years. This is, you're introducing the policy in 2011, you're talking about 22. You don't have a very stable growth over and above which you are saying we will achieve 12 to 14% growth. One is big numbers growth over what? No monitorable targets, no this you can say realistic goals. The third is the problem with NIMZ. This we've already discussed in few detail. Land, this is responsibility of the state government. Which all states will be able to acquire land? Which all have the capacity? And this is 2011, land acquisition process is not very smooth. In fact, land acquisition हमने act देखा था 2013 में आया था, which tried to, but it tilted the balance in the favor of the ones who were giving away the land. Industries के favor में नहीं था 2013 वाला land. So this is a very big responsibility you are giving to the state government. Also, when you are saying tax incentives, the state government is going to lose a revenue. Benefits are 3-4 years down the line, but costs are upfront. Which state is going to do this? Which state will be able to do this? Until and unless they have a good revenue source coming from outside. And India, state governments are not very efficient in collecting taxes. This is not a problem of center, it is a problem of state. Why are you, ये इसी का logic लगाओ, petrol diesel पे इतना क्यों आ रहा tax? It's the easiest to collect. Easiest to collect. और इस time पे after 19 when there is so much slowdown, the state government revenues are very constrained. Not just the state government, central government भी. दोनों के पास पैसे की sources है नहीं, and this is the easiest to collect. Indirect source, आप product बेचोगे tax आएगा ही. And these things are of daily use, like frequent use. So that is why that's the easiest way to collect taxes. That is why so much taxes are being imposed. Normal their collection is very much constrained, very inefficient. Direct tax collection ही देख लो central government का, कितने लोगों को ये collect कर पाता है. Indirect taxes are easy to collect, but they are the most regressive because their impact is on everyone. Even Ambani is buying the same petrol at the same price. Even a poor man in his bike, same price. He's paying the same tax. What are other issues you think are problem? Showing big dream is quality of leaders. They itself know it cannot be fulfilled. Problem हमारी है ना, हम देख रहे हैं वो सपना. Administration, see administration, that is a problem for then for local governance. For NIMZ, having an SPV is very good because you are providing single clearances, everything to the SPV. The person who wants to open a unit, he will be getting the benefit of SPV. But the problem from the urban governance point of view that you will have so many bodies governing different things. That is problem from the perspective of urban governance. But SPV for NIMZ is a very good thing because you have a single point contact. You don't have to go to different government departments. For NIMZ, that will be a very good thing. That is why they always say, when they say smart city, they say smart city ke liye you will have an SPV. So that you have one single point of contact for that. UP. Clarity with respect to exit policy. Yes, that you can mention. This is not just NIMZ. This is a problem here also. It is talking about labor, the loss policy and also sinking fund. There are no specific mechanism given how we are going to get money for that. And are all companies going to abide by those no labor policy? The job loss policy that you are going to give an insurance. So even that is very vague. There is lack of clarity with respect to exit policy. UP government said that it will surpass the national per capita income within 55 years, which is currently half of national per capita. UP is a perfect case of how things fail. Perfect example. These two states will never develop. UP and Bihar can never develop. There are so many inefficiencies. People will always come and work in different states from these states, UP and Bihar. Especially UP तो लखनऊ के इधर से, Eastern UP and Bihar. Very difficult. Never थोड़ा strong word है. Very difficult. Any other reasons you think are problem here? No specific sectors. We included everything. See, even China had goals that we are going to develop this. For example, they started with telecom equipment, that we are going to have world-class mobile manufacturing units. Also telecom equipment, जो back-end equipment होता है. So they picked up sectors which they are going to develop. India, when we were thinking of developing sectors, we picked up all sectors. This is why India is losing out to Bangladesh, Vietnam and Philippines today, because they are targeting those sectors. They are getting a lot of benefits. Unka import bhi, whatever they export, the other countries are not charging any import fees. India pe lagta hai wo. But before that also they are propelling those sectors. In fact, Vietnam to aur zyada upar ja raha hai. Vietnam to is shifting towards higher technologies. India is still not targeting textile. जबकि टेक्सटाइल में तो another advantage is it is also you can provide employment to women. बांग्लादेश में सबसे ज्यादा टेक्सटाइल में women are employed. And that is why its per capita income is rising, because they have specifically targeted that sector. India mein we are not doing that. And that ship has sailed also to some extent, because every country has exploited the benefits. Now when Bangladesh is making shirts at a cheaper price, and also when it is exporting to US, उस पे import नहीं लग रहा है, India की shirt पे import लग रहा है. So obviously Bangladesh has the advantage. पूर्वांचल area, मिर्जापुरी बन सकता है वहाँ से. China, there is strict law and order, but India suffers. So you can write down the shortcomings of this policy. Then we'll take a break. Brief discussion on Make in India, and we'll wrap up industry today. Indian leaders में हवाबाजी ज़्यादा है. Oh wow. See, the point is Indian leaders know that they will get away with anything. In a country when you can get away with demonetization and still win elections, you can get away with anything. They know people don't want that. People want some other things. WhatsApp पे मिल रहा उनको वो. Yes, evaluation of the policy. You can write shortcomings of the policy. First, the goal of the policy is expressed in vague terms. The goal of the policy is expressed in vague terms, which makes its monitoring virtually impossible. The goal is expressed in vague terms, which makes its monitoring virtually impossible. ये तो अब धीरे भी dictate करना है. The goal is expressed in vague terms, which makes its monitoring virtually impossible. There are no specific targets. The policy goal is expressed in vague terms, which makes its monitoring virtually impossible. There are no specific targets fixed for domestic value addition. These flaws must be known to think tanks and policymakers. Still we are failing. See, that is why इतनी सारी recommendations हैं committees की, implement भी नहीं हो रही. Think tanks, policymakers do give these recommendations. There are a lot of think tanks, but the point is nobody is implementing them. Abhi recently there's a famous agriculturist, Dr. Ashok Gulati. He writes often in the Indian Express. उनको गवर्नमेंट ने बुलाया था फॉर सर्टन कमिटी ऑन एग्रीकल्चर. उन्होंने यही जवाब दिया था, पिछली इतनी कमिटी की रिकमेंडेशंस है वही इंप्लीमेंट कर लो. This is what he said. He refused to join the committee. He said there are already so many committees, already studies given. Why are you not recommending them? Or why are you not implementing them? There are no specific targets fixed on domestic value addition. Second, the policy objective of achieving 12 to 14% growth, then what is Niti Aayog doing? मत पूछो सब. 12%. We will discuss Niti Aayog in detail in planning. Don't worry. We will discuss Planning Commission and Niti Aayog in detail in planning. We'll talk about what Niti Aayog is doing. 16 करोड़ रुपए के नीति आयोग ने फ्लावर्स मंगाए थे अपने ब्यूटिफिकेशन के लिए. यहीं पे बिल्डिंग है उनकी नीति आयोग की, आरबीआई के सामने. आई थिंक 16 करोड़ 25 करोड़ के इंपोर्टेड फ्लावर्स आए थे इटली के नीति आयोग की बिल्डिंग के लिए. एंड वील टॉक इन डिटेल व्हाट नीति आयोग इज डूइंग. व्हाट डिड वी राइट? द पॉलिसी ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ अचीविंग 12 to 14% ग्रोथ. The policy objective of achieving 12 to 14% growth is flawed in its arithmetic, or is flawed in its approach, you can write. Given the very high inter-year variability in the growth performance of the sector. Given the very high, it is flawed. 12 to 14% growth objective is flawed. Given the high inter-year variability, in the growth performance of the sector since 1991. Third, given the high inter-year variability in the growth performance of the sector. Third, issues with NIMZ. The land acquisition for the project is a cause of concern. Second, the establishment of the NIMZ will increase the revenue foregone. The establishment of NIMZ will increase the revenue foregone. In bracket you can write as tax incentives. In bracket tax incentives, increase the revenue foregone, bracket tax incentive, which will burden the state exchequer, or you can write state governments, which will burden the revenue of the state governments. Next. There is a lack of clarity on the exit policy. There is lack of clarity on the exit policy. The job loss policy and the sinking fund will face severe challenges. Last, the policy has included many different sectors for its sector specific focus. क्या लिखा है एक बार दोबारा बताना. The policy for its this due to this approach, almost all sectors have been included. Leaving out none for special emphasis. Included all sectors, leaving none for special emphasis. Let's take a break of 5-10 minutes. Then we'll discuss Make in India and a broad overview on the industrial policy. Leaving none for special emphasis. Fourth point is not clear. What is the fourth point we had written? Exit policy. So see, exit policy, they have provided two mechanisms. One is job loss policy, that there would be certain kind of insurance provided when the business closes down. It will protect the labor interest. And second was the sinking fund. But it did not provide how it is going to implement this labor loss policy. How are the companies going to comply with this insurance, the job loss policy? Also, the sinking fund will be managed by the SPV, the special purpose vehicle of the NIMZ. So how will the companies pool in money? What will be the percentage? Then which company is exiting, it will pay to the labor interest. Also, if you see, both the things are talking about how they are going to protect the interest of the labor. They are not talking about the ease of exit of the industry. वो अभी भी हमारे नहीं हुआ. 91 policy also did not talk about how the company is going to exit. Mostly the companies were getting sick was placed under that board for reconstruction, BIFR. They were not allowed to exit. So still we are not talking about that exit. This exit policy is has been formed after IBC only. IBC has brought that mechanism to help them leave the market. This NMP is still not talking about it. It provided two mechanisms specifically for labors. That also implementation would be a challenge, but exit of the industry was not talked about. Okay, so next was the Modi government, Make in India. So you can see the major features. It's just a major replica of the national manufacturing policy, but will work on the Few of the features as in liberalization and providing more leeway to the foreign investments. To facilitate investment, foster innovation, skill development, protect the intellectual property and build in best-in-class manufacturing infrastructure. So this is more comprehensive. It is talking about infrastructure. It is talking about intellectual property protection. There will be an intellectual property policy was introduced after Make in India. So we included as part of Make in India only because it is protecting intellectual property. Rest is just trying to do the same things. Now what are the objectives? Growth rate to 12 to 14% in order to increase the sector share. You can see the objective remains still the same. To create 100 million additional manufacturing jobs in the economy by 2022, ensure contribution is increased to 25% by 2022. Now it has been revised to 25 from current 16. Similar objectives. It will again, most of the policies in India after 91 are trying to rationalize the government intervention. Make in India का सबसे बड़ा जो thing would be to improve the government's ease of doing business as per the World Bank report. This was its major goal, that we have to increase our ease of doing business rankings. Government in fact formed different groups to tackle these things. Okay, we need to improve ease of doing business, and this we improved in many years to know that ease of doing business has no point, no value. Pura scrap hi kar raha World Bank because of its ideological biases, because there was a big difference between ease of doing business on paper and on ground. China has a poor ease of doing business compared to Russia, but most of the business was with China and not with Russia. It had massive corruption exposed in Chile. Socialist regime ke under, it showed a poor ranking, though it was performing better. And plus there's no use of this ranking. We had targeted this ranking after 2014 many years, and we improved also. In fact, in one of the UPSC papers, they asked also that we have improved on this ranking. See, this was not a very small thing. UPSC consecutively for 2-3 years has asked questions of ease of doing business. One, they asked which of the bodies pass this ease of doing business rankings, World Bank, IMF and all. Next year they had asked which of the following is not an indicator in ease of doing business. This was so much in focus that the country, the government was trying to improve our rankings. UPSC ne 3 बार question पूछा है on ease of doing business only. So these rankings were not small. Now they have been exposed. Now they have that there's no use of these rankings, but they were important. UPSC has asked questions 2 or 3 years consecutively in prelims. So Make in India major focus was that we need to increase our ease of doing business rankings. Intellectual property, also creating world-class manufacturing infrastructure. Now it had 4 different heads. New processes, new infrastructure, new sectors and new mindset. ये 4 इसके major goals थे. New process, new infrastructure, new sectors and new mindset. Under the new processes, see the first line. Make in India recognizes ease of doing business as the single most important factor to promote entrepreneurship. This is what I was trying to say. This is what their single-minded goal was, that we need to improve India's ranking on ease of doing business. This is what is going to improve this is not just improving the ease of doing business for our domestic players, but also to enhance the foreign investments. ये सिर्फ domestic players के लिए easy industrialization नहीं था. This is not just to make their life easy, but also to bring the foreign players, to lure the foreign players, because this ease of doing business had a very good global, you could say, standing. Okay, people did believe on these rankings that ease of doing business is great, and we improved a lot. 75, 67 तक rank आ गई थी from 140s. The aim is to de-license and deregulate the industry during the entire life cycle. See, deregulation is one thing which we'll try to do since 1991. This, every policy, every government, in fact, Atmanirbhar Bharat bhi, what they are saying, they will always talk about deregulation, reducing the government interface, single window clearances, digital, the whole mechanism is being made digital. This is what they're trying to do. So new processes is tackling ease of doing business. We have to improve the ease of doing business in India. New infrastructure. Now under this, develop industrial corridors and smart cities to provide infrastructure based on art of technology, high-speed communication, integrated logistics arrangements. I told you that one of the major costs in India is logistics costs in manufacturing and industry. 12 to 14% of GDP, this is a very big figure. This is a very big problem because it is not just adding to the cost, it's harmful for the environment because most of our logistic movement is happening through road. Very less logistic moves through railways. Waterways is बहुत कम. Government is trying to develop waterways also. Waterways, the question has been asked in mains that what are the problems with waterways. So these things are important, comes from logistics. Sida, why do we need waterways? A lot of European countries, they run on waterways. All the logistics happens through the network of rivers. India it's very minimal. And problems with railways, that is why logistics happens on roads. Why do you think India may 1.4 lakh accidents per year? These heavy transport is moving through roads. There are other things also, but volume of traffic is very much because of this logistics movement. Nagaland के trucks दिख जाएंगे आपको दिल्ली की road पे. Whenever you see big trucks, you should see their number plate. Tamil Nadu, Nagaland, कहाँ से truck चल रहे हैं? And these bulk movements should be happening through railways. Railways, only it is cost efficient, it is also less polluting and environmental friendly. Roadways is a very big threat to this. So infrastructure, creating this, strengthened through upgradation of infrastructure in clusters. Fast-paced registration system, infrastructure, intellectual property right registration, skill to be identified, development of workforce. So they are talking about three types of infrastructure. Physical infrastructure, it is talking about digital, the research innovation infrastructure. The third is your human infrastructure. Human capital, skill. Point of dedicated freight corridor. Yes, this is why we need dedicated freight corridors. Problem इनके साथ again वही आती है ना, freight corridors, तो इसमें you can't acquire land. Delhi Mumbai industrial corridor रुका हुआ पूरा because राजस्थान में कुछ villages are not ready to give up land. These projects require a lot of land. So yes, this is problem is they have to start in small because they are not able to get the land acquisition. And then when they are not able to run it on volume. The thing is, these projects will not run if you are not moving volume through them. These projects require volume. जैसे metro है, metro is a good thing, but metro will not be efficient if you are not having volume of traffic. Metro is only successful in Delhi. Why is it not successful anywhere else? Because you don't have that volume of traffic. Cost will be very high. Similarly, these corridors, you need that volume of traffic. If you don't, you will have wastage, underutilization of capacity. You need volume of traffic if they are completed. Abhi to complete hi. Make in India has identified 25 sectors in manufacturing, infrastructure and service, and detailed information is shared through interactive web board and professionally developed brochures. FDI has been opened up. So you see 25 sectors. Again, they could have done it with 4 sectors, 5 sectors. Now there are few sectors where India has developed. Let us for one moment forget that textile may we have the comparative advantage of labor, cheap labor. We have an advantage in automobile. Automobile बहुत अच्छा sector हमने develop किया है. For example, Maruti can develop a lot of Maruti and other players also. Another thing was दवाइयाँ, pharmaceuticals. We have a very good facilities. So we could have targeted those sectors. So those are also not here. We could do it in electronics, we could do it in mobile manufacturing. Slightly higher in technology, but we could have done that, but we selected 25. New mindset, government as a regulator, now it is a facilitator. We will not row, we will steer. 91 se pehle they were rowing. They were the regulator, they were the one who were providing also. Providers and regulators both were the government. Now they are just the facilitator. Red tape se red carpet. This is what the Prime Minister said. ये नहीं बता अपने लिए ये red carpet. So facilitator, this new mindset is important to remove the government intervention. That government is not going to disturb businesses. It is going to facilitate industry. So these things are important. 4 things, new processes. See, mostly Make in India was stuck with ease of doing business. Okay, we have to improve this. Yes, can't we go for producing API? We can go for producing API, but the point is, see, pharmaceuticals का जो raw material is called these active pharmaceutical ingredients. 60 to 70% we import from China because they have the facilities they have created. Now creation of these facilities will require government support. अब यही आप कर सकते थे इसमें. That you create specific facilities, give them policy certainty for 5-10 years. One of the major problems in India is there's no policy certainty. एक दिन एक गुड जीएसटी में होगा, अगले दिन वो किसी और स्लैब में होगा. Policy uncertainty is one of the biggest problem why industry in India is suffering. So you could have promoted that. APIs you could have promoted, a lot of things India could have promoted. Electronics में बहुत lower end electronics it could have promoted. Electrical items, but when you choose 25 sectors, you are choosing none. See, again, the problem here is same. The moment you choose some sectors, now you have to show their performance. The moment you choose sectors, you will have to show that what you have achieved. Again, when you choose many sectors, you don't have to show anything. जब आप 10 गोल रख दोगे कि मेरे को ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, ये भी करना है, आप कुछ भी नहीं करोगे. The moment you have one goal that I have to do this, you will have to show your performance there. The moment you have 10 goals, you will do nothing. The same problem with government, it defines 10 goals. Now here are certain steps. Competitive pricing. See, competitive pricing will always happen. Whenever we say that some country has developed the technology you are trying to develop, other countries have done it. So that is why you need certain specific sectors, provide them certain protection, provide them certain benefits. तभी वो develop कर पाएंगे as compared to others, because others have already developed a scale. So you can't compete with them until unless you protect those industries first. That is why we protected our public sector units and small sector units by reservation and all. हमने जो protectionism किया इसीलिए तो किया because we wanted to protect them from outside competition. So this is why you need to select sectors and promote them. So new processes, as we talked, ease of doing business, business procedures, open up opportunities, incorporation reduced to 1 day instead of 10, power connection provided with 15, documents of exports reduced, validity of license extended to 7, bankruptcy code, goods and services tax, permanent residency status for foreign investors for 10 years. So these steps are all to improve your ease of doing business. Online portals for ESIC, EPFO, Indian trade portal, single point for relevant information on the tariff, non-tariff measures. So these are all improving your access to information, improving ease of doing business. Now this is a very important step. Investor cell called Invest India. See, whenever a foreign country wants to invest in the country, it has to have certain mechanism which India has to have certain domestic mechanism, so that that's one point where you get to know all the information. This Invest India is that. This is your one point of contact for all your queries. It will guide, assist, handhold investors during the entire life cycle of the business. This Invest India is one of the major things which were brought under the Make in India. You can see its ownership also. Earlier it was 49% held by central government and 51% by business bodies. इसका change हुआ recently, the ownership structure of Invest India. But this is a very important body because it is providing 1 point assistance to all the foreign investments coming in the country. Yes, US, every country follows protectionism. Again, to increase the investments from certain countries where India has a good business, Japan plus, Korea plus, ये वहाँ के investments जो आ कह रहे हैं उनका specific 1 point of contact है. Special management teams to facilitate and fast track investment proposals from Japan and South Korea. So these two are important mechanisms. See, under Make in India, we are doing two things: ease of doing business and facilitating foreign investments. And this we are doing at a very large scale. I told you there are 2 stages. I'll just discuss that also. There are 2 stages, 3 stages in development of industry. First is when you create a market, you protect your own players and help them grow. The second is you include a lot of foreign investments who bring in the technology. Why do we need foreign investments? Because they will bring in the technology. They will bring in new processes. They will bring in new products. So that is why this Make in India is trying to bring in a lot of foreign investments in the country. Invest India, Japan plus, Korea plus, these are the steps taken in those regard. Now see the infrastructure. Industrial corridors, industrial cities. Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor, Chennai, Bangalore, Bangalore, Mumbai, Vizag, Chennai, Amritsar, Kolkata. Nodal cities having large land parcels, planned cities, IC-enabled infrastructure, sustainable living. Doubling network of roads by 2020, construction of 15,000 nodes by 2017. Railway projects, Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, Western Dedicated Freight Corridor. Sagarmala, smart cities. So clubbing all these infrastructure projects under Make in India. But Make in India ka two things you should always remember were increasing our ease of doing business and facilitating foreign investments. Rest we were just पिछला जितना था वो सारा एक में डाल दिया. Because now the new government had come, so it had shown कि कुछ हमने भी किया है. So if you see the objectives were largely the same. Now, investment in innovation and research and development. Startup India, IPR policy. Intellectual rights policy launched in 2016 to improve IPR compliance and increase the number of IP patents being signed in India. Yes, Japan makes different proposals. Korea does it. A lot of countries are doing it. Tech startups, startup ecosystem, fostering entrepreneurship, creating an ecosystem conducive for growth of startups. IPR policy, strong TRIPS compliant policy framework, international searching, augmentation of manpower, competent examiners, examination of patents to come down, time for trademarks to come down. So it is ease of access to how you can file a patent. This is what we were trying to do through the IPR policy. This is your Make in India. New processes, new infrastructure, mindset may changing, and new sectors, 25 sectors have been developed. You don't have to remember the 25 sectors. There's very less probability, but you still can have an overview over it. Now, what do you think are the problems? Why has India not industrialized? We are still having 16 to 17%. This is a major interventions we have done. We have discussed IPR 1948, 56, development before 91, after 91 IPR 91, National Manufacturing Policy 21, and this one, Make in India. Still we are stuck at 16-17% of manufacturing contribution to GDP. Why? What do you think are the major issues? Why did it happen? See, agriculture shifted directly to services, that is services was liberalized and opened up. So industry suffered. Why? This is my question. Why did we miss out on industry? You know all the policy interventions, you know everything. Why did we miss out? This handout will be uploaded today itself. Now you know everything. Why have we missed out on industrialization? We still have demand for foreign goods. See, you will always have a demand for foreign goods. Why our own industrialization did not work? There's a term for India which is specifically used as premature deindustrialization. Normally what happens is industries grow like this with percentage of GDP. This is your contribution. So agriculture grows down, services goes up. India mein this happened. This happens at a good percentage. जो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन होता है this one, this with growth growing up, manufacturing will grow. After a point, manufacturing will decline. But in India, we had this premature at a very less one. We started deindustrialization. Mostly it was shifted to services. Why? This is normal आपका structural transformation. But I'll give you numbers also on this. This is your employment share and this is GDP per capita. Lack of technology, lack of skill, no assurance of single policy. Yes, lack of skilled force. We depend too much on import, lack of quality, specific sectors, directness. सारे ही आंसर एक कॉपी पेस्ट ही आ रहे लग रहा है मुझे. LPG, lack of R&D. Yes, so mostly you are giving right lack of R&D. So this is what premature deindustrialization is. Normally countries grow, employment share of manufacturing will increase. After a point it will decrease because you don't no longer have the advantage. So people will be shifted to services sector. But India mein this happened. Not only did we have lesser employment share, but we also peaked at a very less GDP per capita. हमारा peak भी बहुत जल्दी आया. Not only did we at same level we see this is level of output, it is still including more people. हमने बहुत कम ही level पे हमारा peak आ गया at a very small number of GDP per capita. This is your premature deindustrialization. Why? India is diverse, so offers a lot of benefits. Why? See, we try to do, we don't, most of your population doesn't have the capacity. कितना percentage population services में है? It's a very high skill activity. Population तो आपने सब नहीं है, आपका GDP सारा वहीं से आ रहा है, but आपके population नहीं वहाँ पे. What is jobless growth? This is jobless growth. Because you missed out on this. Your employment share fell. It could not reach the maximum. What do you think this happened? No. Small say are maximum, but limit have its own limitation. Yes. That's a very good thing for industry. That you have a very big domestic market. इंडिया में क्यों लोग इतना इन्वेस्ट करने आते हैं, बाकी जगह क्यों नहीं जाते? बिकॉज इंडियाज पॉपुलेशन इज इट्स बिगेस्ट एडवांटेज. इट्स अ वेरी बिग डोमेस्टिक मार्केट. यू कैन सेल दीज गुड्स टू सो मेनी पीपल. वो तो और अच्छा है. Apple will open its office here. Why? Because it has a very good domestic market. India has a very good, big domestic market. This is our strength. See, before this, I'll show you what exactly the industrialization happened in other countries. There are different stages to it. No competition, less political will, human resource management. Not exactly human resource management. See, in the stage 1, you protect your own industry which has a competitive advantage. For example, India has a competitive advantage in textile. You protect your industry, provide them the different features. See, इस ग्राफ में there were two things to notice. कि अगर कोरिया का ये गया, इंडिया का ये आया. See, employment कितने कम कब जल्दी आया at a very less GDP per capita. Not just the employment number is less, it is we are peaking at a very less GDP per capita. Now the stage 1 is when you are lack of human resources. We missed out on using our demographic dividend, optimal utilization, skill mismatch of labor and industrial jobs. So why skill mismatch? See, in the first stage, you protect your industry which has a competitive advantage. सबसे ज़्यादा most of the industries which were protected were your textile, apparel, leather, footwear. Now this is, you provide them the ease of doing business. You provide them with infrastructure. You provide them with institutions. Rule making भी होना चाहिए. You will not have an industry coming up in a lawless area. You need to have contract enforcement. You need to have judiciary. You need to have stable law and order. Until and unless industry will not come. Brain drain. Brain drain, I would still. You need to have a stable environment, an ecosystem. You need to have policy stability. This is you need in the first stage. Also, you need to provide, along with this, you need to provide, you need to skill the workforce. Government का ये काम है. You allow the private. This is how most of the economy is developed. Provide them up, protect them from outside, but provide with them these functions so that they can develop. कोई भी एक अपना एक advantage. Pick 2-3 sectors. Develop your competitive advantage. Give them all these ease of doing business, give them infrastructure, give them institutions, give them a stable environment, give them policy stability. This is the whole ecosystem. Provide them with education and skill. This is how you build the first base. The second base is you have to, now see, when you are providing this, they will get efficiency. But uske baad they need technology to move up. Any natural sector, any advantage, they will stack up. This is a low productivity scale. Because you are giving them protection, that is why they are developing. These two things you need to provide. You need to protect them and also you need to provide these things. But this is not going to be sustainable in the long run. ये sustainable नहीं होने वाला because it is being developed under your protection, giving them a lot of services. The next step of development will come from technology on the back of. See, आपकी भी universities में अगर ideas आएंगे, they have to study what other countries are doing. You have to have foreign technology agreements. You have to lure the foreign players in your economy. Until and unless they come here, you will not be able to know what is the new technology being coming up because your is a very low base, low technology industry. कोई भी start होगा, any industrialization starts like this only. Most countries have done this only. Japan, Germany, South Korea, Taiwan. Everyone has followed the same thing. They protected certain industry. They lured a lot of foreign investments. A lot of foreign scholars were sent out to study what is happening outside. Japan ने बहुत बड़े scale पे किया कि what exactly they are doing, what are the things they are studying in the university, how are the ideas being developed. Technology, you always see technology. One is comes from your research and development base. That is how कैसे आता है. It is a connection between industry and university. आपके ideas university से आएंगे, उनको incubation मिलेगा industry में. You need to have a very strong academia industrial link. Until and unless your engineers are thinking about new technology, how is your industry going to develop that? This is on the back of foreign investment and foreign technology agreements is your technology state. The third is your domestic when your domestic firms are themselves doing technology. They are themselves bringing up new technology. They are doing all the research and development work. Now, see, these three things will only be sustainable when you are allowing them to compete. And this competition was enforced further by exports. सबसे ज्यादा competition कैसे मिलेगा? One thing is you can provide them protection, you can give them technology, they will reach a limit. There were two different companies opened up simultaneously. One was Hyundai, the other was Proton. They both made cars. Proton ने ये सारा कुछ use करके it was producing good cars. The moment it opened the outside market, it could not compete with the world. Hyundai did the changes and competed with the world. See, when they protect the industry, when they select these 2-3 sectors, they create monopoly of few. कुछ ही लोग कर पाते हैं ये. These were called chaebols in South Korea. ये monopoly थी इनकी. But they enforce competition through these chaebols by export. उन्होंने protection भी provide कर दी, foreign technology भी दे दी. But how do you make them efficient? You expose them to exports. The thing is, these big players, these chaebols, they will start when you are providing just the first two things. Also, they will develop the technology themselves. But until and unless you expose them to the market competition, they will not give you the maximum product. अब ये क्या करते हैं? Monopoly जो थोड़े बहुत है. This was Zaibatsu in Japan. ये big players बन रहे थे. These were the terms used for those big monopolies. Very few players developed because of this protection. They developed these technology. Now, what they were doing this, there was stagnancy because they were killing the shorter firms. उनका margin खा रहे थे for profit. Product अच्छा मिल रहा था, but they were not increasing their efficiency. They were eating the profits from the small firms. This is both the things. Chaebols and Zabatsu, both they were doing the same. The government forced them to face exports. दोनों को, जापान में Zabatsu, साउथ कोरिया में Chaebols, इनको बहुत ज्यादा government pressurized to do exports, and the moment it could not achieve the targets, there was accountability ensured. इनकी मैनेजमेंट फायर होती थी. They were forced to close down shops. They were forced to close down shop if they could not compete in the outside market. They were made to face the competition in the outside world. This is how you have developed these markets. Nothing has worked without government intervention. ये तीनों चीजें भी अगर हो रही थी, until and unless you open up them to competition, they will kill your own small industries to get the maximum benefits. They will not give you the good product. Initial stages, yes, but in the medium, long run, it will hamper you. It will give you harm. Yes, so most of you have got the answer. See, basically there are two things. There's not just ambition, there's also accountability. Industry policy की कोई भी तीन चीज, there are three features which are there. They are not just there, it's ambition, you have accountability, and you have adaptability. This is when your policy will succeed. Ambition is your technology. Accountability is your this mechanism, market competition. If you are not able to perform, you have to close down. और ये स्टेट इंसेंटिव्स ने ही बंद करवाया था. ये एक्सपोर्ट कंपटीशन स्टेट था. साउथ कोरिया, ताइवान, एवरी कंट्री हैड इंसेंटिव्स लिंक्ड टू एक्सपोर्ट्स. You had to face the foreign market. And this is where India faltered. India, abhi bhi, if you see, is working on this stage only. We are not able to bring in this, we are not able to do this. ये तो बहुत ही दूर है. India is still on this stage. Why India faltered here is, when it was protecting the industry, it protected the PSUs which did not function. It never opened up to this competition. There was no accountability mechanism. India faltered on this. India faltered on accountability. These PSUs were provided protection, but they never opened up to competition. So they produced high cost, low quality goods. This is why industry failed in India. This is why industrialization failed. This is why all these South Asian tiger economies were able to do in the exports. Now export market is saturated. You have other players who are doing the same thing. There's very less scope of India doing the benefit. That is why we are saying India should again pick up 2-3 sectors and build on exports on these sectors. Plus अब तो global instability इतनी ज़्यादा हो गई after COVID, the whole supply chains being disrupted, this becomes very difficult. That is why when you see national manufacturing policy, you see Make in India, they'll keep on repeating same things here. We need this. We need technologies. And you see world is moving very fast on technology. The whole Internet of Things is based on semiconductors. India is the importer of semiconductors. India कुछ higher technology में तो we are not doing anything because basic technologies में we are not creating goods. This is why, this is the problem of industrialization. Now in this you can talk about specific issues. Specific issues in Indian industrialization starts from capital. Yes, now India is talking about production linked incentive scheme. PLI scheme is to increase that you be efficient, you produce more, you expose yourself to the outside world, you get the benefit. Now we are coming out with these schemes. This is production linked incentive scheme. This is how. तभी इंडिया का मेजर यहीं पे भी नहीं बना. अब इंडिया के इश्यूज यहीं से स्टार्ट कर लो. स्टार्ट विद इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम इन इंडियन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फॉर इंडियन इंडस्ट्री इज पावर. Getting power is the biggest failure you can say in the terms of state. Industry doesn't get continuous power. The quality is very poor and it has to pay a high price because we are subsidizing the domestic consumers. Kejriwal government says free electricity. उसके कौन भरेगा पैसे? You have cross subsidy, you give higher to industry. There are so many stories that people relocate out of India because of lack of provision of power. We think road infrastructure फिर भी एक cost bear कर लेंगे, but power का is a very big concern. Another important thing is you don't have institutions in the form of formal institutions getting loans. NPAs किस लिए हुए बैंक में? because most of your industry was getting loans from the banks only. 6,000 crore का लोन मिला था माल्या को just on the Kingfisher brand value. Collateral was brand value of his Kingfisher. 6,000 crores. There are no capital markets. There are no development financial institution. If you see recently in the budget, there was a developmental financial institution, the NBFDIB bank, which has been introduced. Development bank, which will provide long-term finance to industry and infrastructure. Then you have the labor laws, rigidity in labor. That is a problem. Hire fire policy. Now labor code is also being simplified, the 4 codes. Policy stability, this is like a long term goal. कि कब तक हम stable रख पाते हैं. Finance is a problem. This is a problem. Lot of you online students, they have mentioned कि engineers अगर UPSC की तैयारी करेंगे तो कौन technology बनाएगा. This is true. And how many of your engineers are capable enough for this? कितनी पढ़ाई? It's not just who are enrolling in engineering, what the curriculum is, how many teachers they have, are they teaching anything worthwhile so that they have the atmosphere. ये link ही नहीं है. जब तक practical education नहीं है तब तक नहीं होगा वो भी. This link is a very big minus. IIT Madras में फिर भी incubation है. They have created a good link. IIT Madras has created a good incubation center where they are creating a link with industry. But these are just few places. Mostly engineering colleges are just distributing degrees. Education, skill, health can be a reason. Competition. Another big reason is imports. The moment we opened up in 1991, we were getting dependent on imports. We started getting dependent on imports, we could not create our own capacity. And now creation of capacity is a very big problem. So I'll make you write all these points. Problems wale, I'm just discussing. You are getting a lot of imports. There's very less exports, which is coming with dependence on export. One another thing which happened due to service was, see, you are getting a lot of foreign investments in the form of foreign institutional investment जो आपके stock markets में आ रहे हैं. Also, you are exporting for services, you earn foreign exchange. Now, this all foreign investments which are coming into India, they have appreciated our currency. And what is the problem with an appreciated currency? Normally Indian currency has been appreciated because we get a quantum, very big quantum of the foreign institutional investment. बहुत ज़्यादा dollars आते हैं इंडिया में. Because we are a big market, we offer good returns. उसकी वजह से हमारी currency appreciate हो रही है. Now what do you think is the problem with currency appreciation? Yes, manufacturing exports, they will not get a good margin. So service export अच्छे होने की वजह से we are normally our currency is appreciated, and this appreciated currency becomes a problem for manufacturing exports. Yes, theoretical education practical है ही नहीं. Greater Noida में wholesale में मिलती है. So you know all the problems. Engineering, this is an often asked question. मुझसे इंटरव्यू में पूछा था कि engineers क्यों तैयारी करते हैं. And what is the problem with engineering? Why we don't have good engineers coming out? Curriculum नहीं. Curriculum के अलावा क्या है reason? Practical knowledge क्यों नहीं है? There is no linkage. Why there is no linkage? Why there is poor curriculum? यही तो है, क्वेश्चन यही है ना कि क्यों. We have not invested. Government control is paying good packages. The biggest reason is we don't have teachers. Who will create the linkage? How many of you altogether you know how many people are teaching in engineering colleges? या किसका aim होता है कि M.Tech करके PhD करके I want to teach? How significant is this? Yes. We don't have teachers. अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑल यस योर फैक्टर्स आर ऑल्सो करेक्ट, करिकुलम नहीं अपडेट हो रहा है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में नहीं है, लिंक नहीं है, बट जो पढ़ाने वाले ही नहीं है जितना वो है. अब हम लोग भी इंजीनियर्स, वी नो 60% ऑफ आवर टीचर्स वर डॉग्स. Export fund shortage, salary, no industrial linkage, need of power, lack of professional teachers. Yes. Another problem of Indian industry is, if you remember small scale industry mein, I told you a point that you have two types of industry. One is your large industry. कहाँ लिखे हैं? One is your large enterprises and the other is the small firms. Now small firms are catering to the low quality, low income groups. Now they remain in this cycle. अब एक expand नहीं कर रहे, middle में कोई आ नहीं रहा है, so you don't have a clear market. Demand side से you don't have a market for those goods because you are only catering to the top 10%. इन्हीं के goods बनाने में लगे हम. This is one of the biggest problem. This is what is stopping our growth also. We are not creating products for the larger public. We are creating goods for the only 10%. यहीं पे productivity है जो है. Apple के कैमरा बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, अच्छे होते जा रहे हैं. ये productivity सिर्फ top 10% के लिए है. Rest all are, we are not able to, we are not creating goods for them. We have a segmented market. We are not creating goods for these. Rest of the 90% of the population, rest of the 90% of the population is stuck in this low quality products. The unorganized sector will keep on providing them low quality products. They will not demand. Income inequality की वजह से है ये, because people don't have money to pay for it. Segmented market क्यों है? Because people don't have money. Why don't small firms give them good products, or why are they not expanding to other? Because people don't have money to buy. Demand नहीं है. This is the demand side constraint of Indian industrialization, that people don't have money to buy these goods. Income inequality is leading to this problem in industry. You will not have a clear market because demand side said there is nothing. That is why your market segmentation, just large enterprises focusing on the top 10%. See, you see the change yourself. कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स आजकल सबसे ज्यादा मार्केट में बिक रहे हैं? प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री इन दिस कंट्री कौन से दो प्रोडक्ट्स के, मतलब विच अकॉर्डिंग टू यू आर द टू मेन प्रोडक्ट्स? Electronics. See, electronics has this problem that top 10% are able to buy those electronics which you are saying. 90% अभी भी electronics क्या use करते हैं, you know. If you see in the market in the previous 3 to 5 years, there are only two products which everybody needs, is a necessity, and this is what private industry is now giving: healthcare and education. आप ad अब कितनी भी देख लो, सबसे ज्यादा किसकी आएगी? Education firms, private schools, because this is a necessity. Their income inequality will not work because you have to go, you have to study, you have to buy healthcare. That is why private industry जो भी built हो रही है, the two major products which they are building is healthcare industry. Most of your investments you will see happening in edtech firms, because that is above income inequality. If people are going to die, they are going to go to the hospital. एक बार को, if you don't have money, you will not buy that TV screen. But if the doctor says आपको ये दवाई लेनी है, that person has to bring that money. And that is why your private industry is producing two main goods, education and healthcare. जबकि there are so many other goods which they can, but they are not, because this market segmentation is happening, people will not buy. But necessity people are going to buy. Redmi, Vivo, हाँ Redmi, Vivo तो उठा ही रहे हैं. FMCG. So you notice this, all the ads which are coming, तीन चीजों की ad आती है: education, Byju's, healthcare, the different hospitals, and तीसरी ad आती है Dream 11 में टीम बनाओ. सिर्फ betting. There are no products which are being offered. There are no quality products which are being offered because they know people don't have the ability to buy. Income inequality, in fact, demonetization 2016 onwards, तो incomes कम ही होती जा रही है. Who is going to buy? Only focus is 10%, or the products which everybody is going to buy. You've seen this in COVID. Private hospitals ने क्या कोहराम मचाया है. Even now, उसका बाद there's a dengue outbreak in Delhi NCR. You see every hospital, private hospital has created the services. Because this is a necessity. Only two industries are flourishing, healthcare and education. The others, the players don't come up because there's nobody willing to buy. They will go in the small firms, low quality products. This is a demand side problem of industrialization in India. Even perfumes and deodorants are used by the top 10%. All products which you see advertised, you see will be consumed by the top 10%. ये coin में invest करो, ये किन के लिए है? Who has the money to invest in coins? ये जो crypto में there are so many ads coming up. Who has the money to do it? Top 10%. ये the market is only catering to the top 10% or to the necessities. This is the demand side problem of industrialization, that people don't have the incomes to buy the products, so we don't have the industries. Take the example of cars. People don't have incomes to buy the good cars or to incomes to invest in more. They will not provide it. Farm Easy, Netmeds, हाँ ये भी सारे यही कर रहे हैं, दवाइयाँ बेच रहे हैं. Ajay Devgan, Zubhan Kesari, see what products they are advertising. Tires, see necessities or top 10%. These are the two industries in India. और necessities में सबसे ज़्यादा कहाँ exploitation हो सकती है? Education, healthcare, because people will buy. And that is why we need government in both the things. So let's write down the issues with problems in Indian industry. And with this we complete the Indian industry. The first is infrastructure bottlenecks. RBI कहता है जानकर बनिए सतर्क रहिए. See, even this is a point. That लोगों को पैसे, income inequality is the reason behind it. Why we have so many these schemes where people are trying to cheat each other? Because inequality बहुत है, and they know they are not able to bridge that gap. तो ये cheating वाली schemes बहुत ज़्यादा होती हैं. Everything has a link with this income inequality. Why there's so much of this digital crime? There's a TV series also on this. Jamtara. क्यों हो रहे हैं ये? Because people don't have the money, and you top 10% will show them iPhone, will show them big cars. Rest people don't have the money, but they have the aspiration. Social media का ये but people know that these things are there. Earlier people didn't know. Earlier people didn't know these things existed. Earlier people didn't know these rich foods and these clothes और ये जो भी expensive चीजें नहीं थी, पता नहीं था. अब there's so much exposure, but there's no income to buy. Then this will happen. There's a gap between you have a lot of aspirations now, but you don't have the money to buy it. Infrastructure bottlenecks. So you can write down the Indian industry faces issues. In accessing quality infrastructure, in terms of power availability, roads and ports, etc. Second, problems. The heading is problems in Indian industrialization. Second is non-availability and high cost of credit. First is your infrastructure bottlenecks, lack of access to quality infrastructure, power, roads, ports. Second is Non-availability and high cost of credit. Non-availability and high cost of credit. Normally manufacturers in India face real capital costs. Is this why the rate of suicide is rising? उसके बहुत reason है. Manufacturers in India face real capital cost exceeding 4-5% compared with 1-2% cost for their global competitors. What have you written? Exceeding 2-3%. No, exceeding 4-5%. Capital cost, ये loan का cost. Raising finance. Lending charges, what they face. Loan. Capital is loan. Roads, ports. Then the third, exchange rate. Exchange rate fluctuations. Exchange rate fluctuations. The increasing foreign portfolio investments. The increasing FPI flows, you can write FPI. The increasing FPI flows has led to wide fluctuations in exchange rate. The increasing FPI inflows have led to wide fluctuations in exchange rates. An appreciated rupee results in steep decline in the revenues and profits of an appreciated rupee results in steep decline in revenues and profits of export oriented industries. An appreciated rupee results in a steep decline in revenues and profits of export oriented industries. At the time of sharp depreciation, imports of machinery and raw material become costly. At the time of sharp depreciations, imports of machinery and raw material becomes costly. Then next is rising import intensity of manufacturing. Rising import intensity of manufacturing. The liberalization of trade has reduced tariffs for imports. Tariff on imports. And this industrial growth based on imported components. And this industrial growth based on imported components reduces the growth opportunities for domestic industry. the growth opportunities for domestic industry and depresses the possible linkage between large and small scale sectors. Then next, depresses the linkage between large scale and small scale sectors. Next is demand side constraints. Demand side constraints, the low level of per capita incomes, and high inequality has led to market segmentation, the small scale and unorganized sector caters to demand from market segmentation के बाद the small scale and unorganized sector caters to the demand from vast majority of poor households Therefore, they remain trapped in a cycle of poor quality of production. Therefore, they remained trapped in a poor quality of production, trapped in a cycle of poor quality of production. They remain trapped in a cycle of poor quality of production, outdated technologies, and low levels of profitability. And next, the base for research and development is still nascent and not very well developed. The poor share of public investments in this sector, same point. The poor share of public sector investments in this R&D sector further constrains its growth. Next, labor rigidities. There are nearly 50 central and state legislations. See, this point is an extra because अभी हो भी गए 4 labor codes, but we still don't know its implementation. So labor rigidity is just an extra point you're writing because this we have seen after independence. There are nearly 50 central and state legislations affecting labor conditions in India. This dysfunctional legal framework is one of the reasons for slow growth of industry in India. This dysfunctional legal framework is one of the reasons for slow growth of industry in India. I think we have written most of the points. How many points have been written? क्या क्या लिखा है? एक heading बताओ. Credit. ठीक है. So this is it from industry. I think we have covered most of the things. Now what needs to be done, you are seeing it in news. For example, this problem of capital government is solving through various channels. They have started this developmental financial institution, the NDFIB. Then infrastructure government is creating through a lot of schemes. It is trying to improve infrastructure. Other reforms, import, also this PLI scheme you can mention is a reform measure. It is trying to increase the technological base also. So most of the things what needs to be done, picking up sectors and all these things, you will be seeing in the news. Market gone down due to 1800 points due to FPI. So these market fluctuations, that is why we have written both the things, exchange rate fluctuations. If we have too much of inflows, we will appreciated rupee, exports will be hurt. If we have too much in imports, अगर गिर जाएगा, बाहर जाएगा outflow, तो we will have costlier imports. One another aspect in this, majorly it is being dealt in external sector, is we don't have good bilateral investment and trade treaties. Because see, you should have certain trade treaties so that if you are allowing imports, you are also exporting. Now India has missed out on the RCEP. Now RCEP would have infused a lot of competition, would have included a lot of products coming in. One of the reasons why India did not sign RCEP was dairy products from Australia and New Zealand would have flooded our market. So we said कि हमारी market destroy हो जाएगी. ये नहीं देखा market improve भी हो सकती है because a better technological product is coming. Whenever you are opening, that is why you need to have bilateral investment and trade treaties which are good so that you expose yourself to the outside competition. Until and unless you expose yourself to competition, you are not going to get good products. You're not going to get efficiency. So we are done with industry. We have 3 classes left. We'll probably finish it in 2. We'll try to finish it into the planning. We will do all the 5-year plans. We are left with major topic which we need to discuss. There is the LPG policies. Major section, liberalization, privatization we have done, but still portions of trade policy and other things are left. We'll discuss them there. What are the problems, what happened after LPG and all. So we'll discuss them there, and so that is it. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can ask. No, demand for consumer goods in, okay, so now you, in the context I get it, you were saying it in this context. So this context I think is clear now. So earlier I thought you were saying there's no market in India. Market is big, people don't have the affordability. Why people want to come in India? Why we get so much investments? Every foreign company wants to come in India because we have a very big market. कोई भी car manufacturer आता तो because they see the market potential. Everybody wants to come, but the thing is they cannot afford. That is hurting the industry. Why are people moving out? Toyota is not building, Ford is moving out. Why? Because they know, they are seeing people are not buying. Also, they are facing problems from the government. The biggest benefit of Indian industry is that we have a very huge market. The thing is affordability of that market. This is the point, affordability of that market. So demand is there, but they can't afford. So that is why slowdown in industry will have impact. Industrial growth is also very much related to your macroeconomic stability. What the inflation is, what the growth is. In your industry, for whom will it produce the goods? So that is why these demand side concerns. So yes, you were saying that context, you were right. Yes, so this is our benefits. That वो middle income group, but वो middle ये 10% ही है ना, उसी में आ रहा है, ज़्यादा बड़ा है नहीं, वो जो है उनकी फिर basic commodities की demand है, उसका we don't have a big, for example take laptops. Do we have a market for laptops in India? कितने percentage ले रहे हैं? हाँ, So that is why see this top 10% is just I'm giving a figure के उसी के लिए हम products बनाते हैं. And mostly our industry is creating products on them. Mostly their demand is being met through imports. Import कर रहे हैं. नाइकी के शूज कहाँ से आ रहे हैं? नाइकी के शूज इंडिया में थोड़ी बनते हैं. नाइकी, एडिडास, प्यूमा, दे आर नॉट इंडियन. वियतनाम, थाईलैंड, इन जगह से बन के यहाँ पे आ रहे हैं. यूएस कंपनी है, डिजाइन वहां हो रहा है, बन अभी भी यहाँ आ रहा है. ग्लोबल वैल्यू चेन जूते की भी बहुत बड़ी है नाइकी की. इनफैक्ट यूएस में जो शर्ट्स बिक रही हैं बांग्लादेश से आ रही हैं, यूएस में थोड़ी बन रही है. यूएस में सारा क्लॉथ बांग्लादेश होता है. इफ यू सी, इफ यू बाय, इफ यू नो पीपल कमिंग फ्रॉम यूएस, यू सी द शर्ट्स, सब पे लिखा हुआ मेड इन बांग्लादेश. एडवांटेज लेबर, cheap labor. Now China is moving out of that market. Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are capturing it. So Vietnam is not just providing these low quality, they are moving technological also, they are improving. Made in Vietnam तो बहुत आने वाला है आगे हर टाइम में. Made in Vietnam is a big thing. ये अपलोड दिस हैंडआउट कैसे होगा? ओके, थैंक यू.